Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the UnWokable podcast. Well, that was a debate, wasn't it? That was a debate. Now, as I get started here, I'm gonna be as fair as I possibly can to both candidates. Okay, I'm gonna be as fair as I possibly can, but I'm going to take the media to task today. I'm going to take these moderators to task. But I'm also I'm not gonna be a talking mouth, like a paid talking mouth for Governor Stitt. I'm gonna critique him, and I'm gonna critique Joy. So I'm gonna give you the whole breakdown. I went over this yesterday with Senator Merrick and Riley Flack, and we made some good observations, but I want to do it in depth today, and I'm going to go piece by piece by piece, and I'm going to tell you exactly where I think Governor Stitt went wrong. I'm going to tell you where Joy Hoffmeister was blowing smoke. I'm going to tell you where the moderators overstepped their bounds, which was pretty much the entire thing. Just the very fact that they were on the stage with them is just a horrible visual and puts them at odds with the candidates, especially the ones that they're tailoring questions to try to hurt. This whole setup was kind of a farce, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to go in depth down, and I have some advice for Governor Stitt and for the people that are trying to help him through this process. And if Governor Stitt is in any danger of losing this election, if the polls are in fact correct, it's because he's letting Joy Hoffmeister get to him on his right. He's letting Joy Hoffmeister get to him on his right. Because he's done some things that he doesn't quite want to admit, and that's presenting a problem for him right now. Because the one thing we have to realize, and I just want to point this out. Here's my conservative cred, okay? I have 4 leftist tears tumblers from Daily Wire. 4. Okay? I am a conservative. I've made that very clear. But I'm also an honest person. Okay? So, Governor Stitt had some strong moments. I'm going to point those out. Okay? But if we're not honest about where we need to get better in our messaging as conservatives, and the candidates that carry that message, we're never going to get better. If we just paint over the problems, we're never going to get better. So I'm putting up if you're watching on Facebook, come over and watch on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share. That would really help me out. I put up the link there. Super chats are open. If you want to comment or have questions or want me to talk about something or even want to question me, throw it up in a super chat, and I will read it and engage with it. That's a donation to me to help me keep going and doing what I'm doing. I would really appreciate it. And again, I'm not here to beat up, really, I'm definitely not here to beat up on Governor Stitt. I think he's the better candidate. I think that he represents the only person that in this race that's being anywhere close to honest. Because the thing about Joy is that she's going to say one thing and do the exact opposite. But the way this debate kind of cashed out, it looked like that's what Governor Stitt's doing in some areas, right? And where he's losing votes is on the right. It's not, he's never going to get a vote on the left. That's what he has to understand. That's what the people who are handling him have to understand. All right? I don't know who's running his campaign or who prepped him for this debate, but you need to connect a little bit more with Oklahoma and a little less with what's happening nationally. Because there are some issues here, guys. There are some issues. Again, Joy Hoffmeister is not an honest broker. She's not. And the moderators in this debate helped her hand over fist. It was 3-on-1. It was 3-on-1. Visually, it was 3-on-1. So we're going to get right into that. I'm going to go from the very beginning. We're going to go point by point. All right? And we're just going to break it down. We're going to spend some time. I've got my coffee. Please join me. Super chats are open. Let's do this. You ready? Like, subscribe, share the video. That really helps. I'm being knocked down by YouTube right now. And so how do you beat that? You share the video. Because they don't want, they're knocking down all channels like mine right before these elections. So please like, share, but here we go. We're going to dive right in from the beginning. This is the opening statements.
The stage is yours. Well, first off, thank you.
Well, let's just look at the picture real quick. That's all. Look, you have these two moderators up here on the stage like they're candidates. They have the same lecterns. They're wearing suits. It looks like they are they're debating this thing. They need to be out of sight, but they don't want to be out of sight because they want people to see their faces. This is an incredibly poor decision. It's an incredibly transparent attempt to make yourself a part of the debate, which they did over and over and over again. What they call pushing back is arguing Democratic talking points against Governor Stitt. They do not do this the entire time to Joy Hoffmeister during the debate. They do not. It is one-sided, and the questions are one-sided. I think they asked Joy Hoffmeister one hard question. Pardon me. I just had my breakfast, got my coffee. Please join me. Get some coffee. Give some super chats. So, yes, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Chase. Good morning, Christy. Good morning, everyone that's here today. Please join me for some coffee and the Unwoke fam. That's nice. Thanks, Chase. And no, they didn't do a debate with all four candidates. So, because there's only one debate. But here, let's dive right in. I don't want to spend, but look at the picture. The picture is already off. These moderators need to get their asses off the stage. Period. 100%. Moderators, asses off the stage. Got it? Nobody needs to see your face. If they want to see your face, do an opposing camera with you sitting down, asking questions of the candidates. You are not candidates. Get over yourself and get your asses off the stage. Period.
So much for joining us online and all
this is the opening statements.
You know, I like to remind people how far we've come in the last 4 years. You know, we've gone from budget deficits to a record savings account, from 4-day school weeks and teacher walkouts to now the largest investment in education and teachers in the history of our state. A brightest economy with the lowest unemployment we've ever had. Folks, Oklahoma's turnaround, it is working. We simply can't go backwards, and we know what will happen if we put Biden's party back in charge. You know, I think about Americans who are struggling with high inflation. The Biden party, they
can you all hear it?
Hikes. Meanwhile, in Oklahoma, I cut taxes for every single Oklahoman, every single business, and I want to eliminate the grocery tax. You know, when I think about people just struggling to keep the lights on, Biden's administration, they're begging OPEC and Russia to produce more oil. Meanwhile, in Oklahoma, we're protecting oil and gas jobs to have most of the affordable energy in the entire country.
Energy is going to be a big thing in this debate.
Safe communities and families. You know, the Biden party is defunding the police. Meanwhile, in Oklahoma, we back the blue. I gave our law enforcement a 30% increase this year.
I'll try to make it louder. Hold on.
Last decade. Folks, Oklahoma's turnaround is working. We cannot go back.
Better?
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Superintendent Hoffmeister, 90-second opening statement to you.
Well, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be with you, and I
sound better on that.
For Governor Stitt coming for this debate, and all of those who have joined us today. This is important to have public debate. Thank you for hosting. My husband Jerry and I, we've been married almost 38 years. We have 4 grown children, and just 9 months ago, welcomed our first grandbaby.
Thanks.
And as we raised our kids, we raised them with the same.
Okay, so the beginning.
Most Oklahomans hold dear. We value faith, family.
I hate opening statements,
hard
but
work. And we know
trying to
that
go
it
through all
takes
pieces of the
working
debate.
together, in order to see our economy thrive. We know it means that we've got to have a community where we put world-class schools at the top, where we have access to quality, affordable health care and safe communities, and where we are also prioritizing the infrastructure for great jobs in this state. I'm the daughter of an electrician, and my grandfather was an electrician. And it was that hard work that my dad did that inspired me to put education first. I was also that kid who struggled to read. I went to college, the first in my family. I stepped out of college, got married, put my seminary, and we worked together to overcome a lot of challenges. But we know that for Oklahoma to flourish, we've got to get back to common sense, respect for one another, working together, and getting things done.
So now we're getting into it.
Let's get to our.
She is state superintendent.
There might be a little bit. We'll hold the rest of the applause until they ask each question. Trust me, it goes better that way. Our first round of questions tonight is titled "A Relaxing Run for Governor." Each question will offer 1 minute to each candidate to answer. We will mostly alternate.
Okay, so I just want to point out that I hate questions like this. I hate these frilly, milly-mouthed questions. What would you do to relax? Especially at the beginning of a debate. It wastes time on the important issues that you want to hear, and they're constantly talking about how they're against a clock, right? They're constantly talking about how they're against a clock. Like, we have to hurry this up. This could be a 4-hour debate if they just allotted the time for it. Put them on a damn podcast like Joe Rogan and let them talk. But no, we can't actually have candidates just sit down and talk in a way where you can understand them. So this establishment media setup for debates is outdated, and it's basically designed for them to sit there and give you their stump speeches. But we get into trouble here. It's difficult. But here they start with this question about how do you relax?
Answers each question first. Storm, you've got a toss-up.
Yeah, this first question is going to be a toss-up.
Why are they on the damn stage?
Question of the evening. When Governor Brad Henry was in office, he honed his skills as a painter. When she was governor, Mary Fallon would ride her motorcycle around the mansion grounds. This is a stressful job you're both seeking. So tell us what hobby or activity helps you relax. 30 seconds, whoever wants to go first.
Well, as a father of 6, most of my time is spent with chasing kids around at different sporting events, and my 6th graders playing football. So go Huskies for all them watching out there. I've got a 9th grader that plays volleyball, and so really just like most.
So we waste about 8
right
minutes.
now, juggling your job.
10 minutes of what's supposed to be an hour and 20-minute debate.
Following your kids around, I love doing that, and then
we know you love your families.
With my
wife
is important. Thanks for being here, Sarah.
And how you relax.
Dragging her to a campaign barbecue this time of the year, but it's a lot of fun being a dad and a parent and really serving Oklahoma.
Thank
But
you. Superintendent?
Oh, that's an easy one. I love to spend time with our new grandbaby, Willa. And actually, she's
Here we go.
the motivation that keeps fueling me. And every time we think about what we
Sorry, guys. I want to show the whole debate. So
our kids. And my husband and I have enjoyed hikes all over the state and state parks, as well as actually traveling many miles all over the state talking with Oklahomans. I've got 500,000 miles on my car to prove it, too.
Wonderful. Governor, I've got
Okay,
the first
here we
question
go.
for you. You campaigned for office in 2018 on making Oklahoma a top 10 state. I think everybody's heard
This-
that. But 4 years later, we remain ranked
Listen
12
very
out of
closely
10
here.
states on key education and healthcare issues. As you make your case for re-election, tell us specifically, where have you moved the needle the most on making Oklahoma top 10, and where have you been unable to move that needle?
Well, thank you. As a leader and governor, and whether you're CEO, you have
Listen.
to set a vision for all of your employees and for all the states. So being top 10 is an aspirational goal. It's
Okay.
something that we're never going to hit, but it directs us that we live in the greatest state in the country. The American dream is alive and well in Oklahoma. For a kid that went to first grade in Wayne, Oklahoma, graduated from Norman High School, you can accomplish anything you set your mind to. So that vision is what
Okay, let's talk for a second. Now, I think Governor Stitt misspoke, but he made the statement. His whole campaign is on being a top 10 state. And he says it's aspirational. Yes, it is. You got to set a vision to get there. But he said that we're never going to get there. That's not a good... When you have your main point and you misspeak on your main point to that level, to that degree, you're handing them fodder for ads against you. They have got to prep him better for this debate. And when you have one debate, see, he only agreed to one debate. He can't walk it back. He can't go back and do it again, or have a Mitt Romney moment or a Barack Obama moment like in 2012, where he just miffed the first debate. I mean, just lost. And what did he do? He crawled back in the second debate and the third debate. This is what you do when you put one debate on the calendar. But he stated that we'll never get to being a top 10. Come on, man. Don't hand them easy things. Don't hand them easy, low-hanging fruit. And that's just Governor Stitt, I think, misspeaking. I think he believes we can be a top 10 state. That's why he's doing that. But I was like, oh, this is not good. Okay? But here we go. So we're going to continue with it.
Focus on. But we're number one in most affordable electricity. We're number 5 in bridge conditions. We were number 50th, the last place when I took over, in incarceration rates. That's something I'm very proud of. I've moved the needle, closed 2 private prisons, saving the taxpayer dollars, but also giving people second chances. But you bring up a really good question. Education is...
Hey guys, if you have questions, super chats are open. If you want to...
That's what we want for our kids. Everybody out there wants that. What my opponent needs to answer is, why are we 49th in education right now?
Well, I've got that question.
It's a good question.
You've got that woe sign. Take a look at that. Superintendent Hoffmeister, he led into it. I mentioned education rankings not being where anyone wants them to be. You've been state superintendent for 8 years. Where specifically have you moved the needle most, and where have you been unable?
Here we go. This is a good question.
Oh, I appreciate this question, and you're right. Oklahoma is woefully prepared for the future in education because we do not have the people on the team to meet the needs of students.
What?
Oklahoma
She's not the team.
has a teacher shortage that leads the nation. When I first stepped into office, I asked for competitive pay to attract teachers.
And you got it.
And we got that.
Yep.
After 3 years.
Okay, you got it.
What we realized, too, is that there needs to be more people on the team, school counselors.
No, okay, so this I'm going to hit hard. I'm going to hit hard, and what he should have done here is, first of all the school counselors that she wants to put in, that she spent $35 million of ESSER money, of federal government money to put in, to drop the number of 411 to 1 counselor to student to 200 to 1 counselor to student. Go visit Courage is a Habit. Go visit and look at what my podcast yesterday about Jenna Nelson, and what they want to do with counselors and the radical agenda from counselors. He could have smacked her hard on this and didn't, because he has people telling him to stay out of the fight of things that matter most to the conservatives in Oklahoma, who will win him this race and who she ends up going after later in the debate. He will not take a single solitary vote from the left. She can take votes from the right. She even says, I was a lifelong Republican. In this debate, she says that. And he won't come back with what he should come back with on this.
We are losing those people to other states and other industries. And we did raise our academic expectations, our standards, and now they moved from a D- to an A rating. But you can have the highest standards in the world, and if you don't have the teachers to teach them, what good is it? Here's the problem. This governor...
And also, I want to point out what he could have came back with is part of the reason that we have a teacher shortage is because of 2 years of a lockdown that she pushed that scared the death out of experienced teachers in this state. And many of them retired, and then many retired because of the new woke agenda that they were required to push out that directly flew in the face of their subject matter that they've been teaching their whole lives. We lost 41% more teachers in the summer between 2021 and 2022. That's the reason why we have a teacher shortage, is because of the COVID lockdowns that she pushed by locking down and masking kids. If kids are have a psychological issue, mostly it's because they had their faces covered for 2 years and were scared to death by their teachers, by their administrators, by Joy Hoffmeister. And just listen to his response here.
Governor has a school voucher scheme that is a rural school
Oh, and she
killer.
kills him on
you kill
school
the
choice.
community.
Governor, 15-second rebuttal. We're going to get to all that in a little bit. Do you want to say anything right now?
Well, the
15 seconds.
Here's the facts.
15
The
seconds.
facts are this. My opponent has received $1 billion in new spending over
That's
the last
true.
8 years. The only thing that hasn't improved is education. So really, the people out there, Superintendent, want to know, why has your record gone downhill in education outcomes since you've been superintendent?
Final 15 seconds to close us out.
Because we need a governor who gets it.
15
We need a
seconds.
governor who understands the connection between people, teachers who are trained, resourced, and ready on day one to meet the needs of children who have very incredibly deep needs today. And we'll talk more about what those are and how to solve it.
Absolutely, we will. Storm, you have the next question.
All right, this 60 seconds.
Okay, so
starts with Superintendent.
just breaking that down again. The issue here is that she hasn't done her job. The reason why she's been there for 8 years, and all she done is govern like a Democrat in Republican clothes. And where Stitt has failed is where he's done the same thing. And we'll get to that. But he's doing it much less than her, and she has been in charge of the Department of Education for 8 years. And it's her Democratic policies as a Republican, which we all fell for, didn't we? that have caused the problem, and they're causing a problem so they can fix it. Snake oil salesman.
Hoffmeister, let's go back in time 18 months. You're both statewide elected Republican officials working together on executive.
Okay, so it's very interesting. During this portion, the feed goes down. So this is real time. The feed is going down. This happened.
Well, that's easy.
They're asking, why did you switch parties? Yet the feed goes down. This is the hardest question she got the whole debate.
Our governor hijacked the Republican Party. He's driving our state into the ground. I am aggressively moderate, always have been. And
Aggressively
I believe if we get
moderate?
people together.
And so the feed goes down during the hardest question she gets all night. This is real time.
And as I view this state, we realize that we are not seeing a governor whose vision includes building the robust world-class schools that are needed. We don't have
It's
a governor
amazing.
who has put the access to health care for all patients in this state in.
When they talk about healthcare, goes down. This is the only time it happened, and it was during her hardest question of the night. This is real time. This is how the feed is, because this is how it was recorded. So the feed's going down during the hardest question of the night. I'm not doing anything. I'm not pressing pause. This is how the feed went. And they don't revisit
A
it.
lot of folks on both sides of the aisle want to know.
Boom, comes right back up.
If you're a Democrat, the Democratic Party in the state has a 94-page party platform. How much of that do you
Amazing.
subscribe to?
I'm an independent thinker. I am running as an Oklahoman, and I'm on one team, and that's Team Oklahoma.
And they're going to give her a pass on this.
Oklahoma families, regardless of their party affiliation.
They're going to give her a pass on
I will
this.
say that I was a Republican longer than Governor Stitt was registered to vote.
Governor Stitt, 60 seconds. When did you get a
See?
sense that Mrs. Hoffmeister was displeased with your job and going to participate in this?
Let's just talk about that for a minute. So she switches parties. She goes to the Democratic Party. They don't require her to endorse the platform. The woke and the Democrats have two rule books. Okay? They hold their candidates responsible for nothing and give them a pass on everything, and hold the Republicans or any conservatives or anybody that may oppose them responsible for everything they do, everything they say, any inconsistency, and you can see this in the media. She will 100% be beholden to Biden. She's not going to say that, though, and the Democrats are not going to penalize her for saying it. They're not going to be honest about anything. But the problem is that there's not much daylight between these two on certain issues, and she tacks to his right to get votes here, and he allows it, and it's amazing. It's amazing. But she's not an honest broker. She will say anything and do anything, and the Democrats will let her say and do anything. I'm on Team Oklahoma. She's basically saying, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, but I'm running as a Democrat. And they just allow, they don't hit back. And of course, the feed goes down during her hardest answer question of the night. But boom, pops right back up. It's amazing. Yes, I think it was done deliberately. I do. That's just my opinion. Because we've seen that actually documented in other local debates around the country. I'll find those instances and I'll bring them to you so you can see. But this Oklahoma media is one of the most left-leaning media in the country, and nobody realizes it. And they're activists. And you can tell in their questioning.
Those people that are sitting at their table right now, and we're getting into these things, here's the facts. We have the largest savings account in our state's history. I cut taxes for every single Oklahoman. We want to eliminate the grocery tax. We've been holding government accountable. Even small government, lower taxes. My opponent, she couldn't see a path forward for herself as a Republican, so she switched parties. She joined Biden's party, which canceled the Keystone Pipeline day one in office. They believe in open borders. She's never saw a tax they didn't like and want to spend your taxpayer dollars. So folks, the turnaround is working. We have an awesome state. We are so much better off 4 years today than we were 4 years ago. We want to keep this momentum going.
Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause.
He should have hit her on her flip-floppiness, and he didn't. He should have hit her on... It's amazing to me. It's just absolutely amazing to me that he could have went for the jugular and went for her inconsistency and her move as a politician to be what she truly is and always has been. He could have said the reason why education is the way it is because she's been governing it as a Democrat in Republican clothing. Boom! You automatically solidify your right flank with a lot of that.
So far, those of
She's clapping for the governor.
Those of you who know me means that you know that we must be having a little bit of a technical issue with the video feed. I'm going to take a drink of water. Storm, you want to take a drink of water as well? This is a good time for you to share that stream again as we work that kink out. Just 1 second.
Okay, so look. It was in real time. They didn't have a way to tell these people that there was a problem with the feed. They don't have things in their ears. And we're talking like 30 seconds. I 100% believe that it was meant to go out at that point. That's just me. You can call me tinfoil hat if you want. But just look, this isn't like CBS Evening News. They don't have producers sitting in their ears. And all of a sudden, it's just like a script. It's like we're in a play. It's amazing. Yeah, let's take that drink of water.
Delicious Aquafina water. Did I mention that Hillary Communications and Fowler Auto Group have sponsored that bar? So feel free if you need to get another beverage.
Yeah, sell.
I'm going to jump back into it. I hope we've gotten that worked out. They will let me know if we haven't, and we'll make sure that the people watching at home can see this awesome debate.
Yeah, except for the part that you just didn't get on the record.
This 60-second question will start with Governor Stitt.
What
You've spent a great
crap.
deal of time trying to recruit major companies to move to Oklahoma, but one of the challenges facing our state and the entire country involves the workforce. Many industries are struggling to find qualified job applicants and companies, and often speak of a skills gap in the hiring market. Simply put, what must be done to improve the situation for Oklahoma students and employers alike?
Thank you. We have to break down the silos between higher ed, common ed, and career tech. We need one workforce person that can get everyone aligned. And to me, it's pretty simple. Let's look at the jobs of tomorrow. What are the companies? What do they need? And then let's make sure we get that workforce ready. We need more engineers. We need more doctors and lawyers. But we also need more A&P mechanics and HVAC techs and more nurses. And so I'm constantly working with higher ed to focus on that workforce of tomorrow.
Yeah, this is a problem.
One thing that's happening in Norman, Oklahoma is we just set up an aviation program. We are thinking outside the box, folks. So a high school student, if they want to become an A&P mechanic, and by the way, just for all the young people working out there, American Airlines is hiring. It's $70,000 a year for a starting salary. So you can go to this high school. By the time you graduate, you're 90% there to an A&P mechanic. We have to think outside the box, and we can't keep doing the same things we've done for the last 8 years.
Superintendent Hoffmeister, what can be done to narrow that skills gap?
Okay.
Well, this is the reason I'm running, because we absolutely are missing out on opportunities for industry leaders to come to Oklahoma, but also to keep people here. We've got to build a long-term plan, which is going to actually build capacity for our state. What the governor has done is focused on short-term gains. A Panasonic deal, $700 million.
See, she's
a lot of enthusiasm around that. I'm not against an incentive that makes
this
sense.
This is a huge problem, guys.
But if we're going to look long term, we have got to support our kids. They've got to have a competitive education. We can't dismantle public education, which is going to happen under the governor's watch. And we've got to make sure that Oklahomans have access to quality, affordable health care, and that we do nothing to prevent the health decisions that should be made between a patient, an Oklahoman, and their doctor. Finally, I want to say we need a
except for vaccines and things, right? Except for the COVID issue, right? She seemed pretty mandate prone, right? But again, what she's doing here, what people don't understand, is she's tacking to his right on this issue. Because his viewpoint is instinctively left on this issue. That's a bit of a problem, and she exploits it. And I'm not sure why he allowed this to happen in the debate. Other than, well, we'll get to it.
Governor who can close a deal. All right? We need a governor who gets the connection with education and that will put Oklahomans first. The only business that is thriving under Governor Stitt's watch is his own.
See, and they're having problems with this is not me, this
Here's
is
the deal. I know the truth. She's not lying to me. She's lying to you, the public. We have the lowest unemployment in our state's history. We have
That's
an
true.
economy that is growing. Right now, Oklahoma is number 11 in the country, 11th in migration, people moving to the great state of Oklahoma.
Yes,
because of our pro-business, pro-freedom policies. We don't want to put Biden's party back in control of Oklahoma, of higher taxes and more regulation.
Superintendent, 30 seconds if you'd like it.
Yeah, the governor keeps talking about people out of this state. This is the.
That's not what he was talking about. He was talking about people moving to the state. But the problem is that you have a bunch of people moving to the state because of the COVID migration that are going to vote more like she's talking and lean more blue. This is happening in Idaho. It's happening in Kansas. It's happening in Colorado. It's happening in Montana. Ladies and gentlemen, where you have a great migration moving to the larger cities in red states from states that were locked down Yes, well, I'm not stating that all, okay, but if you watch this debate, she goes after the blue state moderates, people who left because of I'm going to blame you. I'm sorry, I'm going to blame anybody who votes for her or might vote for her, but I'm telling you, there's a giant, you can look at the voting data. You can look at the voting data and see exactly. So most of the new people moving into the state are voting more towards her viewpoints on things. That's just a fact. I'll find the polls I was reading and I'll show you. But the problem is that I think he would pick up some of the new migrated people from blue states who left because of those problems. If he would actually hold more conservative, hard positions, which he waffles on in this debate. And he gives her ground that she shouldn't have to she gives her ground that she wouldn't normally give up.
The practice, he reads off a national script and is out of touch with Oklahomans and the actual needs and solutions that are right here if we will work with stakeholders and those experts here in Oklahoma.
Okay, now she used the word stakeholder. Now, I need to explain something here. The whole ESG model, when you're talking about environmental social governance, okay? Environmental social governance. Environment, he is tacked to the left on the environment in this debate. That is directly married to the social justice message. Yes, at stakeholder capitalism is exactly right. But he feeds into it too. That's the problem here. Because the E in ESG is part of stakeholder capitalism. The renewable energy issue is part of stakeholder capitalism. And courting that in a state that has built itself off of actual fossil fuels puts him to the left of her in some of these issues. And you'll see that soon. Look, just listen.
I also know that he's taking credit for the largest savings account, yet he didn't sign the budget. He said he held a press conference and said because he didn't have anything to do with that. So it's a convenient today, 20 days before election, to talk about that.
All right, 15 more seconds, then we'll move on.
Again, to everybody out there at your kitchen table, we've gone from budget nightmares, almost zero money in savings, and you elected a business person. You wanted an outsider, not a career politician, to put a fresh set of eyes on every contract and hold government accountable. That's exactly what I'm doing for you. We've got
soon we're going to see the media jump in here and just completely overstep their bounds.
We cut taxes last year, and we're going to continue that momentum.
And that's good. That's good. Good answer.
If you want it.
Well, yeah. First of all, I would just say that the governor talks about that we have low unemployment. But I want to tell you about conversations I've had with people. A woman in Tulsa, 4 kids, she's working 3 jobs. And she said home ownership is going to be out of reach for her. She can't imagine how she will ever afford it.
Yeah, but that's because of
about the quality of
the inflation.
And in order to be ready for that, we've got to have the education and the health to do it.
Thank you very much. I thought this was going to be a round called a relaxing run for.
Please keep in mind that she always unifies education and health. That is a democratic, woke, left, remove your parents from your kids message. And I've highlighted this on my channel before. She wants schools to take over the job of parenting. How do you do that? You inject healthcare and psychological and behavioral healthcare into the schools, get kids to admit or quasi-admit or trick them into saying that they're being abused or otherwise neglected or being not affirmed in their identity, and you remove kids from their parents. Look up WISC Oklahoma, whole child, whole school, whole community model. And she says that here. That's why Joy Hoffmeister cannot win this election. She cannot win this election. And that's why I'm so upset with him taking a losing strategy in this debate. He's got to be a strong conservative across the board. Otherwise, he looks like he upsets the conservatives, and they'll stay home. I think that there is a large portion. I'm not putting any. It's never all one thing or the other. I just want to point that out. I think we have an issue with a lot of the people that have come in. I think we have an issue with him abandoning his Republican stances on many things, or never having held them in the first place sometimes. She cannot win this election. He's got to tack to the right. His move to the left on diversity, his move to the left on the environment, his move to the left on some of these other things is hurting him because people notice this stuff before this debate even. That's why the polls are even somewhat close, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll tell you, the OU children's issue, which wasn't brought up in this debate, just conveniently, which was one of the biggest stories in the last 30 days, 40 days, 2 months, just completely mulled over. Why didn't they ask about it? I would love to know. I would love to know.
For governor, but who knows? Let's see if we get there on this question. A lot of people thought they would be voting on state question 820.
So this is marijuana,
which proposes decriminalizing marijuana in Oklahoma. Delays in the new validation process. Some people would be mad at me if I said delays, but delays in getting this validated means it won't be on the November 8th ballot. But yesterday, Governor Stitt set a March 7th special election.
So this is about marijuana in the state.
Superintendent Hoffmeister, 60 seconds to you. Will you support or oppose SQ 820 if you are elected governor? And let's go ahead and ask, have you ever smoked marijuana or consumed cannabis?
The answer to your last question is no. However, it depends on who's governor.
Well,
it depends on, see, and again, the feed goes down during her portion of this question. The feed goes down again. Because this is a sticky issue with this is a sticky issue with conservatives in this state who don't necessarily agree with the marijuana issue.
And we seem to have lost our signal from this live event. We will work to resolve the issue, and we hope to resume our.
Yeah, they lost this. Now here, that means they lost the signal because that's C-SPAN talking over the top, right? That's C-SPAN talking about them losing the signal from the home base, which is Oklahoma, during another issue that she's going to have a problem with. Although her answer here, let me talk about the media for a second. All of the questions in this debate were set up to make her look as good as possible and for him to look as bad as possible. And he should have been prepared for that. He should have been prepared.
Feed for just a second, and Governor, you're going to get a second to think about this because I'm going to come back to her, and then I'm going to need to know.
So she gets 2 chances at the question.
I got the keep going words. So just real quick, Superintendent Hoffmeister, the question was, if you are elected
She got
governor,
2 answers at the question. 2 chances.
State question 820,
which is legalizing marijuana.
You know, I'm not certain yet. Because part of that answer, I do think that it is something
I'm not certain yet.
We basically have recreational marijuana today, but we don't have the tax income. So that's very attractive to have the ability to actually have some revenue that would help education and some other needed areas. But what I'm most worried about is cleaning up the mess that's been left under Governor Stitt's watch. In fact, not only under his watch, but under his nose. His own appointee is helping Chinese businesses smuggle drugs right here in the state.
And this issue came up the day of the debate.
This is a serious crisis. Go talk with anyone in rural Oklahoma. In fact, I was talking with Western farmers and ranchers about this very issue.
Let me let him get his answer in. Thank you very much. Governor, let me remind you of the question. If you're reelected in November, will you support or oppose SQ 820?
They didn't push back because she didn't answer the question. She basically said, I'm not sure, maybe not. And they didn't push back. Now watch what they do to him. Watch what they do to him. This is where you first really start seeing the blatant bias in these questions from the moderators. Okay? This was a 3-on-1 debate. Make no mistake. It was them 3, even visually. It was those 3 the two moderators and Joy Hoffmeister against Governor Stitt in this debate. 100%. And this is where you really start seeing it, because she didn't answer the question. She got two chances to answer it because of the feed going down. Right? She answered it, didn't answer the question. They didn't push back. And then they go into asking the governor the same thing, and they push back on him. Listen.
And have you ever consumed cannabis?
Are we talking about medical or recreational?
Either way, the whatever form you would like to have it in.
To the people out there that are actually watching at home and concerned about this issue, it is a real mess. When I first became governor, it was a poorly worded referendum, and this industry popped up overnight, medical marijuana industry. So we passed 12 different laws last year to address it. We spun the agency out. We hired 80 new enforcement agents. We have a moratorium. So I heard from rural Oklahoma, with all the foreign nationals buying up farmland and ranch land, we put a moratorium. There's no more new licenses till we get control of this industry. We also are one of only 14 states that we passed. It's illegal for a foreign national to own farmland in Oklahoma. So we're doing,
and that's great. That's absolutely great.
Get control of that industry before we ever talk about the recreational piece.
Well, let me just ask you though, are you saying that if you don't get that,
they're pushing back.
Support it, or you will support it?
See, she didn't answer the question. She didn't answer the question. She said, "Oh, I'm not sure, I might." But yes, Governor Stitt, I want to point that out. That was one of the best things that he has done, is saying that you can't have a foreign national own land in Oklahoma. Great. That's the rest of the country should be doing that. But I want to point this out. She didn't answer the question. The moderator doesn't push back. They want to go directly to Governor Stitt. He gives a nuanced answer in much the same way she did, and they immediately push back on him.
What is your position in March?
I will be very clear. No, I am not supporting that.
And then he answers the question.
Illegal federally. We should not have a checkerboard of jurisdictions across the state. So I am not supporting recreational marijuana.
At least he took a stand.
Again, what my opponent is saying, she's been spinning this in a circle like a politician. But
Good.
I think Oklahomans want to know what her answer is on this issue.
Well,
Yes,
let me ask you real
that's
quick.
maybe his best moment in the debate right there.
Medical question. Have you consumed it? Ever? Once? Nobody's mad.
My parents are in the room, so they're going to be very disappointed. Yes.
Okay.
Hey, and that's the other thing too.
Norm, you've got a question about...
He answers the question and moves past it. He was a kid, I'm sure, and he moves past it. But I think they do that to distract from the fact that he gave the best answer of the debate for him right here, which is that he's against it. He gave an answer when she waffled on it, and they didn't push back on her answer. They didn't push back on her answer. He was honest. And him having done marijuana when he was a kid makes no difference at all, especially now that you have most states legalizing the substance. Right? It's going up on the ballot, but he's showing, hey, look, I probably didn't do the best thing. It's probably not best for you, and that's why I'm not going to support it happening in the state in March. And they let her slide completely on that answer. They let her not commit. And they did not push back on her.
Turnpikes, I believe. We're a little bit behind, but this is a great conversation.
So we're going to turnpikes.
Okay. Pulling the turnpike question.
By the way, I would want to...
And they let her jump in.
I do think it should be on the ballot. The people should have the opportunity to have their voices heard. Okay. And I will respect the will of the people. But we will do this in a way that is safe and that gets control again over the kind of Wild West that we're in today.
Righty.
Storm.
Governor Stitt, earlier this year, you announced a massive expansion of turnpikes in Oklahoma aimed at reducing traffic congestion.
Oh, this is not a good...
expected to cost about $5 billion over 15 years.
But see, again, every question picked by these moderators is designed to hurt the governor. Every single one of them. And on the questions that might be hard for Joy Hoffmeister, the feed goes out. Literally. It's amazing. It's amazing. Not really.
Some citizens who will be displaced from their homes or have a loud turnpike in their proverbial backyard. What do you say to those Oklahomans whose lives are being upended for new toll roads?
Well, we want to be top 10 at everything we do, and that includes roads and bridges. And staying ahead of infrastructure and congestion is a huge advantage for Oklahoma right now. We've gone from 47th in bridge conditions with our hardworking folks in that sector, and now we're number 5. Everybody remembers in here in 2002 when we had the bridge collapse happened. 14 people lost their lives. Infrastructure is so important.
Yeah.
We're focused on rural infrastructure. We want rural roads. I went to Washington, D.C. to make sure we got some funding for our rural highways, to put shoulders on all of our rural highways. So I'm an infrastructure governor, there's no doubt about it. But we're going to accommodate every single person that we can as they're laying out routes, and there's engineering. So there's in comment periods right now. But we can't have gridlock. And what you're going to hear my opponent say is she wants to cancel it. And apparently she wants gridlock on I-35 for the next 50 years. But leaders have to lead, and we have an obligation to make sure that Oklahoma is well positioned for the growth.
This is a rough question for him because the turnpikes are not
Hoffmeister,
popular.
Are you in favor of this turnpike expansion?
I am not in favor
See?
of the southern extension that was not part of what was established with the authority through the legislature. This is something that I have sat in the living rooms of those in Norman who are in the path of this. Over 600 homes. They are needing answers. So I think part of what we have to do is reform. We need eminent domain reform.
Yes.
We need to have
Many displaced hurts the election.
to apply to the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, and I am calling for the state auditor to do the first ever external state audit of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. 75 years that hasn't happened, and it needs to. Also, the 2-lane roads all across the state are where the deaths occur. These are killers, and instead of working to support safer roads all across the state, this governor has been dug in, and the way that the communities found out was when it broke on social media. We have a lot of work to do.
And that's true. That part is true, is that they didn't roll this out. It broke on social media, and there's been so much secrecy behind it. That hurts him. It hurts him because it plays into a narrative that the Democrats use against him, that he's doing things behind people's backs. And he could defeat this so much just by going straight at it and saying, you know what, we made a couple of mistakes in the rollout, but this is what's best for Oklahoma in the future. We're giving compensation to people in their land and doing what we can to help those people, and we'll do more. Stay steadfast in what it is you support, but then say that you're going to help the people that it's displacing, and but he lets her run shop over him on this. She was better prepared for this debate than he was. That's just all there is to it, and he needed to prepare better for it. And he had some strong moments. The last issue on marijuana, I think it was actually because he was honest about it, and because he said, this presents a danger in jurisdictional issues, which is absolutely the case because, as Chase just said about red flag laws, that is a huge issue. You notice that you can't own a medical marijuana card and own a gun or buy a gun at the same time. That's going to be used against people in the future because there's an intersection here between medical marijuana and you owning a gun. What do you think it's going to be with recreational marijuana and you owning a gun? And the more people that get onto that dole, the less guns you can buy in the future. They're going to take it little by slowly, because there's already a red flag law that was passed by 15 Republicans in the Senate that are all mostly retiring. So just to go back on that, but this turnpike issue hurts him, and they pick all of these questions, all of these issues were designed to hurt the governor, and they sat up there and dogpiled him. They absolutely did. Both visually and in fact.
We need a modern infrastructure for the future, and we don't have it today.
Then why are you against the
Thank
turnpike?
you very much. Something's ringing. Well, that's
Two sides of the same.
Questions. Give them a round of applause. Our second round of questions tonight is titled The Kitchen Sink because we're going to throw a lot of things at them. We're going to have a slew of questions on prominent issues in civic discourse. Buckle up, Storm.
This is a 60-second question, Superintendent Hoffmeister.
And the
Extreme drought
60
and
seconds,
weather
15
events
seconds.
are becoming more common or blamed on climate change, which societies across the globe have recognized as a scientific consensus. Many people acknowledge how human activity that releases carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases contributes to climate change. The question, do you agree with that statement, and do you agree with the Oklahoma Democratic Party platform, which supports dramatic and bold actions be taken on a worldwide basis to reduce carbon emissions? 60 seconds.
Okay, I'm going to replay this question because this is where it gets really, really hairy, guys. This is where it gets really, really concerning. The question was, do you agree with the Democratic Party platform? Okay, about the environment. The E in ESG is environmental. It's all about renewables. It's all about electric cars. It's all about creating an economy that's not an Oklahoma economy, not a United States economy, but a world economy. Do you talk about safety and borders, ladies and gentlemen? The physical border won't matter much if we don't have some protections for the economic border. So I'm going to replay this question because it's really important to pay attention to what they ask here and what the responses are. This is maybe the most important part of this debate.
For all of our citizens.
Superintendent Hoffmeister, are you in favor of this turnpike expansion?
All across the state.
Hold on.
We need more energy, not less. All across the state.
Hold on, sorry.
This governor has been dug in, and the way that a lot of work to do.
Thank you very much.
Okay, here we go. Listen to this.
Something's ringing. Well, that's the end of round one of questions. Give a lot of things, Adam. We're going to have.
Listen to this. This is really, really important.
Civic discourse. Buckle up, Storm.
This is a 60-second question, Superintendent Hoffmeister first. Extreme drought and other weather events are becoming more common or being blamed on climate change, which societies across the globe have recognized as a scientific consensus. Many people acknowledge how human activity.
He sets, so they've recognized that this is a thing, so he's setting it as fact that there can be no delineation, no nuance, that this is settled science. And anybody who actually knows science knows that it's not. One, and in terms of consensus is the defeat of science. But they're setting up a premise here, for not just for her question, but for his.
The globe have recognized as a scientific consensus. Blamed on climate. Hoffmeister first. Extreme drought and other weather events are becoming more common or being blamed on climate change, which societies across the globe as a scientific consensus. Many people acknowledge how human activity that releases carbon dioxide and other.
Many people acknowledge that many people acknowledge that this is a fact. Who are the many people? But they've set a premise now. They've set a premise, and this is so specious.
Greenhouse gases contributes to climate change. The question, do you agree with that statement, and do you agree with the Oklahoma Democratic Party platform, which supports dramatic and bold actions be taken on a worldwide basis to
on a worldwide basis?
60 seconds.
There's nothing that defines the quality of life more than energy. We need more energy, not less. And frankly, there is no such thing as good energy or bad energy, clean energy or not. We have zero emissions that people talk about, which we know is not true.
She's tacking to his right on this. She just sidestepped him to the right on this issue. And you'll see it when he talks about it. She's saying that zero emissions, impossible. Okay? She's saying, which it is, and that's what. If I were him in this response, I would look at the camera and say, she's being dishonest with you about what she intends to do here, because she is, but she tacks to his right, and he doesn't call her on it. So,
emissions that people talk about, which we know is not true. There are zero emission cars, they claim, but they have emissions when they're built, when they're transported, when they're shipped.
That's a conservative talking point.
Having energy 24/7. Ask a hospital. last year. Ask a homeowner last year during that winter storm or polar vortex when our grid did not, barely made it, and we
Okay, this
saw
is weird.
an increased need to use gas because our homes were without electricity.
She's conflating what happened in Texas and what happened in Oklahoma. She's just trying to say that we had this mass drop in our grid when we didn't, by the way. So she's just outright lying here.
And we did not have the ability to power this state with the right fuel during that storm. We need, and I'm critical, frankly, of this governor. I'm critical of Joe Biden. They haven't done enough to battle
You see?
The needs of Oklahoma and the energy industry, and I will never turn my back on Oklahoma's energy industry, and I am not in favor of raising any taxes. In fact, I've called for a reduction of the fuel tax, and this governor didn't.
Governor, 60 seconds. Do you agree with the statement that human activity is causing climate change, and how do you balance that with this?
See, so they set now they've set the stage as the moderators to, if you have to accept the consensus that many people say, right? Or you look crazy. And so instead of doing like DeSantis would and calling him on that, he accepts the premise. And quite frankly, he has to, because many of the policies he's pushed are not necessarily anti-ESG. Okay, guys? And this is where I presented a problem. I've tried to tell the governor, you cannot accept leftist premises and win a debate. And he's accepted a lot of the premises of the left when it comes to energy and it comes to the environment, and it's hurting him on his right. But let's listen to his answers here.
The state so reliant on petroleum for jobs and economic activity?
You know, first off, climate is always changing. What I'll brag about Oklahoma is we've reduced our emissions 3 times the national average since 2005 from President Biden's own benchmark.
Okay, so what he's saying, she criticized Biden and him and lumped them together. What he's saying is we did better than Biden told us to. Ugh! Do you see where I'm having an issue here? Do you see where I'm a little concerned? This question, the way that they asked it, set him up for failure. Because he had to accept a premise that is an arguable premise. Or he looks crazy. And he's worried about that, so he allows it to happen. Whoever is doing his handling, whoever is giving him advice, you're giving him really bad advice for Oklahoma. Really bad advice for Oklahoma. He's not going to get any votes on the left, ladies and gentlemen. He will lose votes on the right. That's where she's going, and she sidestepped him on this.
It is clean burning natural gas.
That's good.
That is leading to that. So the attack from the Biden administration, her party, on Oklahoma oil and gas is just unbelievable. Every single president of the United States since 1973 has had an energy independence policy. She joined this party.
Yes.
And day one in office, the same year she joined, they killed the Keystone Pipeline.
Yes.
That's what's causing inflation numbers to go up. That's why we're paying so much money at the gas pump. Oklahoma has an all of the above, more of everything approach. We're number 2 in wind energy. I've signed an MOU with the governor of Arkansas and Louisiana to get a hydrogen hub right here in Oklahoma.
He is preaching Biden's message on energy. He's preaching the E in the ESG here. And a lot of conservatives see through that and are worried about it. And she tacks to his right on this issue. She tacks to his right.
So folks, our energy grid, we're a net exporter, and we're one of only 4 states that can say this. One of only 4 states can say that over 40% of our energy comes from renewables. So
that is a red flag to many, 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 many Republicans. Guys. That's all I'm saying. He's got to have better answers on this issue than I'm doing what Biden says. She can't win this election. She can't win this election. But guys, there's concerns with this. That's all I'm saying. But I tell you, she's going to do the exact same thing. At least he will give us a check and balance and is willing to take on the Biden administration in nuanced areas on this issue. But this is why I'm telling you that Oklahoma is actually the front lines of this battle in the country and the world when it comes to a globalist takeover. Because it all has to do with energy and social justice, or what they call environmental justice. And we have two candidates here that I don't know. That's all I'm saying. But if she wins, it's for sure going to go Biden's direction. I'm going to tell you that right now. There will be no stopping it.
I'm so proud of the Oklahoma story. I tell it all the time. You should be very proud of it. And it's leading to huge economic events here with manufacturing want to move here because of our reliable energy grid, something we're really proud of in Oklahoma.
Superintendent Hoffmeister will give you 15 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. American energy independence is American safety and security. Evidently, he reads off national...
I heard Trump and DeSantis say that exact phrase no more than 2 weeks ago. I just want to point that out. That she is hitting him on the right on this issue. I just want to that phrase that she just uttered.
Something we're really proud of in Oklahoma.
Superintendent Hoffmeister will give you 15 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. American energy independence is American safety and security. Evidently, he reads off national scripts. I don't. I'm an independent thinker. I don't care what someone else has written or stands for. I am standing for the people of this state. I'm on one team, Team Oklahoma. And the energy sector is an incredibly important part of our economy, jobs, and the people of this state need those jobs. This governor has...
The problem here is that she's preaching conservative talking points, but she will not hold conservative values. But she tacked his right and he let it happen. But she's lying. She's saying American energy independence. She is all in on Biden's environmental plan. I'm telling you right now. She's all in on it. But just like she lied to you for 8 years as state superintendent, ladies and gentlemen, just like she lied to you for 8 years as state superintendent saying she was going to do this and do that. Like a Republican, like a conservative. She was the most left-leaning state superintendent of public instruction that Oklahoma has ever had. The problems we are having in this state is because she claimed to be a Republican and governed like a leftist Democrat. And she's tacking to the right here to try to take voters to trick you. But he plays into the hands by accepting all the Biden premises about renewables and the need for that, and how it's going to help the economy. When in the long run, I don't believe it will. That is the ENESG. But she is being completely dishonest. At least he's being honest about what he's doing here. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. It boggles my mind. Sorry, my wife texted me. Let's go back just a little bit because I think that's just really important.
The energy sector is an incredibly important part of our economy, jobs, and the people of this state need those jobs. This governor has, on his watch, we still have hundreds of wells that are offline. We can do more. He does not have a comprehensive energy plan. And we should have it, and we will. We only have with this governor.
So she just hit him on not having wells open. And he's touting 40% renewables. Have we flipped here? I don't get it. She's picking up voters on the right, and none of the voters on the left are going to vote for him. He's tacked to the middle on these issues, and it's hurting him really, really bad. I will take the people to task that are running his campaign and giving him his talking points. You are doing the wrong thing for his campaign, and that is evident in the polling. No, she won't open them. You're right. But she's not the one Again, they're hitting him and what he's doing, and she's able to tack to his right because his positions here are not necessarily conservative positions. They're trying to make them seem like conservative positions, but they're not. That's the problem here. Is he's retreating to the middle in what is supposed to be the reddest state in the country. You got to dance with the one that brung you, man. You got to dance with the ones that brung you.
Governor, 70 pages of pictures about fracking.
Governor,
well, and she'll eliminate fracking.
Move on.
Well, I guess she wants government intervention and everything. I think our oil and gas companies do a fantastic job. We're number 4 in the country in oil production, number 3 in natural gas production. So I'm actually not sure exactly what she just said, but I support our oil and gas industry. We've got a thriving industry, and as well as our renewables. We can talk about both. And we're not having honest conversations, whether you're Republicans or Democrats, if you're not talking about the need for oil and natural gas and also the move to renewables. I'm going hard after battery companies, and we're going after electric vehicle companies. We have more charging stations per capita in Oklahoma than any other state. Oklahomans out there, we have a fantastic state. The momentum is building. We got to keep it going.
He's preaching he's preaching Biden's message here, guys. I don't understand it. He's not going to pick up any votes on the left. Do you understand that? He's not going to pick up any votes on the left. But she is just, scooping him out from the right. Remember, at the beginning of the debate, she said, I was a lifelong Republican before he registered to vote. She's painting herself as the consummate moderate when she governs like a woke leftist, when she does her job like a woke leftist. And because he won't call that out the way a DeSantis would, the way Trump would, she just smacks him in the head with it. Come on, guys. Come on. Governor Stitt's campaign, you have to change your tack for the last 2 weeks of this campaign. If you do not, we will have I thought the polls were, I'm concerned. Change, adjust, because she cannot win this election. I'm trying to help you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to point you both to that octagonal woe sign and just kind of try to keep that in mind. Finish your thought when you see it from the young man up front. Governor Stitt, we're switching to another topic. Nearly 1 year ago, hours before a man named Julius Jones was scheduled to die from lethal injection, you commuted his sentence to life without the possibility of parole. Jones was convicted of murdering Edmond resident Paul Howell during a 1999 carjacking. A documentary questioned Jones's guilt, but prosecutors insist he was rightfully convicted. Your official statement.
So I just want to talk about what they're doing here. They've picked all of the possible, they've went through his record. And any issue that he's gone left on, they're taking him to task for. The media and Joy Hoffmeister and the Democrats in the state like his policy on energy. They like his policies on criminal justice reform. But in the debate, they take him to task for it, as if they do not like it. And so by accepting their premises on these issues, he's hurt himself politically, because they'll praise Joy Hoffmeister for holding these same views and beat him over the head with it to try to remove conservative voters, because they know that this is a primarily red state, and if they can make him look duplicitous to conservatives, there's more of a chance that they vote for her. This is how the media, who has 2 rule books, hold their candidates accountable for nothing, hold the other candidates, the conservative candidate, accountable for everything, because they have nuance on issues. The one thing I will respect about Governor Stitt through all of this is he's being honest with you. He's telling you, she's lying to you. he is being honest about what he's doing. I may not agree with some of the policies, but he's straight up answering the damn question, and they're beating him up with honesty and praising her and helping her because she's lying to you. They need to get off the damn stage and learn how to ask objective questions. And this is where they start beating him up, where they start debating with him in her place. This is a huge problem. And I understand why he only agreed to one debate because of this. Because he knows that he's going to stand up there and to be debating with 3 people who are against him and not just one. You fake moderators. Get your asses off the stage and shut your ask questions and shut your mouth. They're playing Monica Crowley in the debate with Obama and Mitt Romney in the 2012 cycle, where he had to actually debate her. That's what ends up happening here. But this criminal justice reform, he tacked to the left on these issues. He bent to the mob when it comes to some of these issues. And now they're beating him up for it, for things that they praised in the media. If you go back and look at it, they praised his actions on this. And then what does she do? What does she do? You'll see. She goes in and actually hits him on the right on this issue. So he's getting hit from 2 sides. This lines of questioning were a complete setup by the media. They were a complete setup. Guys, super chats are open. I would appreciate that if you want to donate to what I'm doing and help. But also like, subscribe, share the channel, because this is the meat of it, man. This is, if you want people to see parts of this, this is where I'm going to really take the media to task here, because they are blatantly biased. It's obvious. And they hit him from 2 sides, but he allowed it to happen by tacking and bending to the mob on these issues. Every time you accept a leftist premise, you bend to the mob. That's what DeSantis does not do, and it's why he, in a purple state, is winning hand over fist.
Made about your decision was that, quote, after your 9 carjacking, parole, lethal injection, a year ago, from the young man.
Listen to this.
Governor Stitt, we're switching to another topic. Nearly 1 year ago, hours before a man named Julius Jones was scheduled to die from lethal injection, you commuted his sentence to life without the possibility of parole. Jones was convicted of murdering Edmond resident Paul Howell during a 1999 carjacking. A documentary questioned Jones's guilt.
They know conservatives aren't going to like this.
Your official statement made about your decision was that, quote, after prayerful consideration and reviewing materials presented by all sides of this case, you commuted the sentence. Tonight, can you be more specific about why you commuted that sentence? Do you believe Julius Jones was wrongly convicted?
They're hitting him
when you take the oath of office as governor, you promise to obey, we promise to defend, we promise to enforce all the laws in the state of Oklahoma. And the death penalty is probably the most surreal thing that you can do as a governor. So we have a process that we put in place. I spoke with all the previous governors about their process. We met with the defense attorneys, we met with the prosecutors, I met with the Howell family. And I felt like, after hearing all that information, that was the best decision for the state of Oklahoma.
Do you think he was wrongfully convicted? Why did you think that was the best decision?
Well, I'm not going to get into, I'm not the jury, I didn't see all the evidence, but that was the best decision for the state of Oklahoma.
Now listen.
Superintendent, I question whether I want to push back or ask you a third time, but
You'll
I
get
know
the
what
same
I think.
answer.
I'll get the same answer. I know what I think you told the Howell family.
See,
are you willing to say that here?
See,
No,
listen to this.
It was not my story to tell.
Then he shouldn't have brought it up. Who the hell is this moderator? What he just did there was duplicitous. If you didn't have, he says here, listen to this exchange. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous on the behalf of these moderators who are standing up there like they're candidates. This is absolutely a ridiculous exchange and should be called out by everybody to show how corrupt the media in this state is.
Best decision for the state of Oklahoma.
Superintendent, I question whether I want to push back or ask you a third time, but
You'll
I
get
know
the
what I
same
think.
answer.
I'll get the same answer. I know what I think you told the Howell family. Are you willing to say
Right.
that?
No, you tell it.
It was not my story to tell. I didn't have their permission to do so.
Then why did you, he said he didn't have their permission he said he didn't have their permission to tell it, but he brought it up. Why? Because he wants you to go look for it, because he knows this is going to hurt him on the right. He just debated with the governor. He didn't ask him a follow-up question. He brought up an issue that, again, and she's going to tack to his right on this. It's like it was pre-coordinated, because her answer hits the other spot that they know are going to hurt him. And and the moderator here is a complete hack. A complete hack. And this isn't the only time this happens in this debate, where he ends up having to debate with the moderators in addition to, who are offering support to Joy Hoffmeister because they support her. They know she's a woke leftist Democrat. But they're going to allow her to tack to his right and not call her on it. This is the duplicitousness of the media in this state, which is one of the most left-leaning media apparatuses in the country is in Oklahoma.
Jones, Governor Stitt has denied commutations to a half dozen other death row inmates, even when the Pardon and Parole Board has recommended leniency. Tomorrow morning, Benjamin Cole, for whom the board did not recommend clemency, is scheduled to be executed for killing a 9-month-old baby. The Oklahoma Democratic Party's official platform calls for, quote, an end to the death penalty. Many of your supporters hope that you will discontinue the practice of execution in Oklahoma. If you are elected governor, will executions continue?
This is a settled matter in Oklahoma. The voters made it very clear when they voted for the death penalty, and it is part of our Constitution, and I will uphold that. But it is...
And the Democrats are not going to hold her responsible for that. They're going to say, great, go get those Republican votes. That's what they're going to do. But they know she can get the Republican votes. I'm telling you, everyone listening to me that might be involved with the campaign or have access to people who are with the campaign, he is not going to pick up any votes on the left. He has to solidify his base. He has to. Because the base is the majority of the voters in this state. You're tacked to the left on diversity. You're tacked to the left on the environment, and criminal justice is hurting you here, and they set you up for it in this debate. But you can't believe anything Joy Hoffmeister is saying here. That's what everyone has to understand, is that Governor Stitt is being honest about his positions and what he's done. So he's honest. She is lying to you outright. So Republicans, understand this. She's lying to you outright. And she will do the opposite of what she says she's going to do as governor. Do not fall for her BS. Do not fall for Joy Hoffmeister's BS here. I want to get to that. But they're so the question here is do you support ending capital punishment? And she's basically saying, no, I'm going to respect the will of the voters. But I guarantee you there will be a record number of commutations under a Governor Joy Hoffmeister, and she will tack that direction. Promise you, when she wins that office.
The Pardon and Parole Board has recommended leniency. Tomorrow morning, Benjamin Cole, for whom the board did not recommend clemency, is scheduled to be executed for killing a 9-month-old baby. The Oklahoma Democratic Party's official platform calls for, quote, an end to the death penalty. Many of your supporters hope that you will discontinue the practice of execution in Oklahoma. If you are elected governor, will executions...
Not even people against the death penalty can make a great argument for commuting the sentence of a person who killed a 9-month-old baby. Okay? They can't. And that is set up here for her to look like, oh, of course I'm going to support what the voters want on this issue. because who wouldn't want to punish that person in that way for destroying the life of a child? Which we'll get into the abortion thing, but it's set up for her victory in this debate.
Please continue.
This is a settled matter in Oklahoma. The voters made it very clear when they voted for.
How could it be
death
settled and
penalty,
clear?
and it is part of our Constitution, and I will uphold that. But it is important that we have a governor who actually does the due diligence with that office, with those pardon and parole recommendations, not seeking national headlines like we saw on one day when the governor
She's hitting
didn't
him
do
on
his
the right
homework,
here.
and who allowed a violent criminal, in fact, to leave. And that criminal, along with, I don't know if he was too busy sowing division but from protecting families, but tell that to the family of Andrea Blankenship, who was murdered by a man that this governor let out on a record day of letting out many nonviolent offenders, and he did not.
Okay, so the issue of letting out nonviolent offenders, that is a left-leaning position, and it's a left-leaning action on the behalf of Governor Stitt. And she, a Democrat, and the Democrats believed and would support them in this, supported him in these actions. But now the Democrat nominee for governor is hitting him for it on the right. He stepped into it because he bent to the mob on these issues. The reason why he gave that commutation was because there was a giant outcry from a very small group of people. And he bent to the mob, and now they're using it against him. Even though it's what they wanted. Do you see what's happening here? This is why you cannot, Governor Stitt, win an election and win an argument by accepting the premise of the left. They will beat you up with it every single time. I've been telling you this for 2 damn years. Even straight to your face. You tacking to the left on these issues is losing you the votes you need to win this election.
Not do his homework. And Governor Stitt let this man out, and he killed 2 other people as well. Or ask the Michelle.
He actually hits back on good on her.
Governor signed to release the crossbow killer of Tulsa, my hometown. And it wasn't until the media found out that was reversed. We need a governor who does his homework.
Governor Stitt, 30 seconds rebuttal.
Yeah, again, to the people out there, and what she just said is simply not true. When we have released their low-level drug offenders, I signed the largest commutation in U.S. history back in 2019. Right now, we are leading the country in the lowest recidivism rate. That means people going back into prison. I'm very proud of the record that we've made make sense. We've been locking up people that we're mad at, and now we need to do it with the people that we're afraid of. And so we're giving second chances to some folks, but for her to twist this like this, it's just really, really disgusting and bringing up something that horribly happened. There's people that get out of prison every single day, and we can't control when something bad's going to happen. And for you to use that as political gains, that's super disappointing. And I know the people out there think that's a cheap shot.
Well,
I think that's a good response because she said that he was responsible for their deaths. Okay, but where she's making the point is that he let out a ton of people, and this is not a conservative thing that he did. He was praised on the left for doing this, and now they're beating him in the head with it. And then where do they move after this? Right into crime. You can see the way that they've set this up, the moderators, to make him look as bad as possible. And they're beating him up with the things that he thought they were going to praise him for. This is the difference between Stitt and DeSantis. He doesn't do leftist things for leftist praise. You got to change this up in the next 2 weeks. You got to change this up. You got to And you've got to change it. You have to dance with the one who brung you, and you have to hold steadfast on your values if you hold them and not bend to the mob on leftist issues. They will eat you alive every time because they will beat you up with what they praised you for when you did it.
Let me say this real quick. We're talking about Lawrence Anderson, who was redocketed in error by the pardon and parole.
Okay, so now look.
I think that's use that.
This is another time where the moderators inject themselves into this debate as debaters. Just so you know. This is horrible. They should be completely removed from the stage. And you've got to have some balance here instead of two leftist activist moderators. No Republican conservative should enter a debate without getting to pick one of the moderators. And the Democrats can pick the other one. Because these two people claim to be objective and they're obviously not. They obviously lean left. For sure. They lean left. Do not agree to a debate where you cannot pick one of the moderators. Because the left or any solid media institution, even the Chamber of Commerce, is going to pick a left-leaning moderator or accept a left-leaning moderator. This is why I wanted to be involved in the forums for the mayor in Norman, because every single question was from a left-leaning moderator and was geared towards the left looking as good as possible. And now they inject themselves into the debate. Watch. Again.
Something that horribly happened. There's people that get out of prison.
It's a good answer on his part.
Day,
calling her out for making politics of deaths of families.
And for you to use that as political gains, that's super disappointing. And I know the people out there think that's a cheap shot.
Well, let me say this real quick. We're talking about Lawrence Anderson, who was redocketed in error by the Pardon and Parole Board. This matter was investigated by the Oklahoma County Grand Jury. They alleged that there was improper influence. I don't know about that matter. What is your understanding of why Lawrence Anderson got redocketed and then got commuted?
There's thousands and thousands of people that are currently in prison, and they're going to be getting out this year that have got certain sentences. And the Pardon and Parole Board goes through those the best they can. There's 5 people on that board.
The Pardon and Parole Board set him up for this. There's left-leaning people on the Pardon and Parole Board. This is the problem that Trump had. There's much of the underbelly of Oklahoma departments that are super duper leftist. It's called the bureaucracy. It's called the swamp. And they didn't do their job, and now they're laying it at the feet of the governor when he took their recommendations, and he probably didn't look at it close enough. But he doesn't do his due diligence in the staffing, just like Trump did. Trump hired the wrong people, and he kept the wrong people in the job. And you can see this all over the state right now. So I'm telling you, Governor Stitt, if you win this election, which I believe you should, you have to clean house in your departments, because they're setting you up for failure and moving your administration to the left underneath your feet. But the moderator here is just, he pushes back on this issue, brings up specific things that they know are going to hurt him on the right. And Joy then just jumps on the right bandwagon and says, look, don't you like what I just said? It's a setup.
And they recommend for some people to get released. And sometimes bad things happen. And with thousands of people every year, the other thing is just throwing away the key and locking every single person up for good. That's not the solution either, Superintendent. And so things are going to happen. And for you to take that type of shot and bring those wounds back up and try to make those families out there think that that was somehow I was responsible, or the 5 people on the Pardon and Parole Board, they absolutely would change their vote.
That's true.
And make a different decision if we knew that that person was going to kill someone. Everybody out there knows that. We all know that you're just trying to make political points. That's disgusting.
30 seconds, Superintendent.
Yes.
That's maybe one of the strongest points of the debate, because that's true.
let's keep the applause down. Thank
So
you.
let's talk about the facts. The fact is, the rates of violent crime are higher in Oklahoma
not
under
true.
your watch than in
not
New
true.
York. and
Okay, so this
California.
is being,
That's a fact.
I want to make a point here.
We'll have that fact checked by the Frontier Superintendent.
It's also a fact that
Hang
medical
on,
marijuana.
Oklahomans, do you believe we have higher crime than New York or California? That's what she just said.
Okay, now I want to make a few points here. They call it adjusted for percentages, but all of the higher crime, I just want to, this is a very important point. All of the higher crime in Oklahoma, adjusted for percentages, which is what they do to make this case, because the obvious number of people harmed or killed or victims of crime in Oklahoma are far less numbers to numbers, but they do it by percentages. This is how they trick you. But the other part of it is it's all concentrated in Tulsa and Oklahoma City, which are ran by two Republicans, two Joy Hoffmeister-style Republicans. They're ran by Republicans who are really Democrats, but run as Republicans like Joy Hoffmeister did for the last 8 years, and institute and govern as leftists. It's a fact. And so the reason why there's the rise in higher crime is because we've elected Republicans in these jurisdictions that are not Republicans, that govern like leftist Democrats. Look at Holt specifically. He bends on every social issue, and it has led to a rise in crime. He bends on every social issue. And so this crime statistic, again, was another setup, and they're using it as sound bites all over social media because they adjust it for these percentages and then say, well, these are run by Republicans. They're run by Joy Hoffmeister-style Republicans, which she's shown she's not a Republican, she's not a conservative, she's a Democrat. She governs and runs her department like a Democrat, just as these Republicans in Oklahoma City and Tulsa do the same. And that's why the crime has risen in those areas over the last 10 years. But the real numbers comparison, Governor Stitt is right. Adjusted for percentages, they're higher. It's a duplicitous method. They use pragmatism. Look up the original meaning of that word, where they manipulate data to make their point, and now they're beating him over the head with it. But it's built on a lie, an absolute lie.
Higher crime than New York or California? That's what she just said.
Safety and security is my top priority, and it will be as governor.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next question.
They're
You have it for Governor.
setting her up to beat him on the
Thanks to
right.
legislation you signed as governor, abortion is now
Here we go.
categorically illegal in Oklahoma, except when a woman's life is in jeopardy. If a woman or underage girl is raped or is struggling with severe chemical addiction, she is criminally prohibited from terminating a pregnancy in Oklahoma. If one were to be passed by the legislature, would you sign a law allowing abortion in cases of rape, incest, or when a woman is entering rehab for a chemical addiction? 60 seconds.
You know, as a father of 3 daughters, just unimaginable pain, and I can't imagine if something like that would have happened. You know, we believe that life begins exception in Oklahoma. There are exceptions in our law that we're going to leave up to the healthcare professions. But I think we want to be number one in caring for the mother and the child in Oklahoma. We want to be number one in adoption rates. But I think the most extreme view here is my opponents and her party. And she won't actually answer it. But
That's
there's
good.
states like Colorado and California and New York that will abort babies all the way up until the time of birth.
That's
They're more aligned with North Korea and China. Even France bans abortion at 14 weeks.
This is a good answer.
You won't hear her giving an answer. I'm very clear on my pro-life stance in Oklahoma, and I would like to know, is she going to side with the Biden party and allow abortions all the way up until the time of birth?
We are going to hear from Superintendent Hoffmeister, but speaking of being very
They
clear,
won't
would
ask
you
that question of her.
sign an exception for rape, incest, or addiction?
You know, if the legislature put that on my desk, I would sign that.
Okay. Superintendent
Oh,
Hoffmeister, 60
gosh. You can't be the most pro-life governor, or claim to be, and then make a statement like that. because you just tacked off a large percentage of your base that might not show up for you if they know you're going to sign that kind of legislation. Okay? And they pushed him into it. And he took the bait. And then now listen to what they don't push Joey Hoffmeister in, because he brought up a very good point. Does she support abortion all the way up to and including right before birth? Does she? But you won't see them push back on that. You won't see them do it. Listen.
60 seconds. And also, when it comes to abortion, how would you work with the Republican legislature on that?
How would
Legislature put that on my desk, I would sign that.
Okay. Superintendent Hoffmeister, 60 seconds. And also, when it comes to abortion, how would you work with the Republican legislature on that?
So they asked her a completely different question. They won't ask her whether she supports abortion up to the time of birth. So notice the question they asked him, which they know is going to hurt him with his base based upon the answer he gave, right? And they avoid the question that he asked, which is a legitimate question. And they don't even rephrase the question. They don't put it out there again. How would you work with the legislature on abortion? That's the question they're asking her right now.
The women of Oklahoma have heard you loud and clear. All right? And let me tell you that we have a governor who has shown no mercy for victims of rape or incest. He has signed and invited the most extreme ban on abortion in this country. I am personally pro-life.
Oh, here we
walked
go.
in every woman's shoes.
Oh, this is such a ridiculous.
I don't favor extremes on either side of this issue.
Oh my gosh.
This is a healthcare decision between a woman and her doctor and her faith. We need to repeal what the governor has done. He has criminalized healthcare. He has criminalized standard medical care. He has assaulted women and doctors. And when he was confronted by a rape victim.
This is the same woman who will support the medical mutilation of children, the medical transition of children as medical care. I just want to point that out. And if Governor Stitt would have went hard on that, like really held up money and made a strong stand against that and made it illegal, he would be up 10 points right now. So, but she's tacking to him. She's saying, I'm personally pro-life, but I support pro-choice. Come on. That is such a duplicitous answer. It is a absolutely duplicitous answer. I'm personally pro-life, but I support all the pro-choice policies. That's it. She's manipulating every single voter right there.
Assaulted women and doctors. And when he was confronted by a rape victim who said, Governor, what would you do to help me? He had no answer. He had no help. I am going
to let the governor. We're going to let Governor Stitt respond to that. But Superintendent Hoffmeister, you mentioned repealing the abortion laws. Those passed with overwhelming support in the legislature. How do you do that? Are you willing to veto the budget? What leverage do you have on abortion? Superintendent,
because
yes.
of the clapping, I'm sorry.
The clapping didn't get in the way.
You mentioned, yeah.
Yes. We have a supermajority Republican House and Senate. Politics is about relationships. And I have worked with many of our Republican and Democratic-led elected leaders in the House and Senate. And there are many who have worked to advance issues that their communities want, and we do the hard work of building consensus, of bringing people together.
The question was, how are you going to repeal abortion in Oklahoma?
With the legislature.
The ban on abortion.
Instead of saying, all right, let's come together. What are your top priorities? These are the things that are going to be a no-go. I'm going to be a backstop to some of that as well, but we will work together to get things done for the people of Oklahoma.
She didn't answer the question, and they don't push back.
Abortion, if you'd like.
Again, to the people out there, I'm very clear that I believe that life begins at conception, and we don't even know where my opponent stands on it.
That's right.
Again, she stands with the most extreme of her party, and they will not say, when is it too late to take a human
That's
life?
right.
They don't know. They won't tell you.
Thank you
That's
very
right.
much.
That's his best.
Okay.
And they will not hold her.
I continue to hear a theme
And she,
with Kevin Stitt. It's all about party. Do you hear it?
It's about truth.
This
what
is
it's
about people
Answers.
for me. Excuse me. This is about people over party. This is about Oklahomans. This is about the real issues facing Oklahoma
blah, blah,
today.
blah.
I am
She's
going to
skirting the
fight
issue.
like hell for the future of this state, and I don't care. I'll hold both parties accountable. We're going to do what's right for Oklahomans, and that is why I'm running for office.
All right, thank you very much. Let's take a round of applause for them so far.
oh yeah, let's accept a round of applause now that she got a good line that had nothing to do with the question.
Toss-up question for the candidates.
We are very behind.
Amazing.
So please try to mind that stop sign and forgive us if we get a little rude here with the time. Let's talk about the apparent alleged criminal mess that's become Epic Charter Schools and its founder's private management company, Epic Youth Services. This is a toss-up, so whoever wants to take it first for 90 seconds. Ben Harris and David Cheney were some of Oklahoma's most prominent political donors for years. Governor Stitt, they donated $2,700 to your 2018 campaign. Superintendent Hoffmeister each
Every single question is pointed at Governor Stitt. They don't ask her any questions that put her in any danger at all.
Charges, and the two of you have blamed each other for the Epic saga. So without further ado, who's to blame and what went wrong with Epic? 60 seconds, whoever wants to start.
Well, when I came into office, she had already been there for 4 years. Just so everybody
That's
out there
true.
knows, she was a Republican, and she was the superintendent of education 4 years before I got there. Took up
Governed as a Democrat.
$50,000. When I first got there, I knew there was a problem. I called for an audit. Then she signed on to my audit. She could have done it before I got there. I returned,
right.
when they got indicted, I returned all of my campaign donations. I think 2,700 you said. I don't remember exactly what the number was. My opponent has still not returned over $50,000 that she received
That's true.
from them. She was in charge of that. We have to hold people accountable. That's what I've been doing. I've called for more audits to be more transparent with your taxpayer dollars.
That's
the
true.
reason we have the largest savings account we've ever had in state history. We're ranked 4th in the country in that, by the way. And we will continue to hold government accountable as long as I'm governor. I'm putting a fresh set of eyes on every single thing. And when I call...
And it's important to understand, she was a Republican, but she was governing like a Democrat. She was running that department like a Democrat, which is why we're in the hole in education we are, is because she has been running that department like a Democrat, and we fell for it twice. Don't fall for it again, Oklahoma. She's saying she's a moderate. She's absolutely not a moderate, and she's corrupt. She's absolutely corrupt.
Called for the audit of the education department that she runs. It's the largest spend in taxpayer dollars. She called it an attack. Oklahomans, I call it transparency, and so do you. So I think she needs to answer, why would she call an audit of the education department an attack? And why didn't she do an audit before I even got into office?
Superintendent, I think we had 90
It's a great
seconds
question.
on Epic.
Yes, thank you. So this is a governor.
Super chats are open, guys, if you want to make a comment or have a question.
That's the difference between.
Would appreciate it.
the
Donations would be
governor and me.
very appreciated.
I held donors accountable. And we saw this governor shield them. In fact, his own state board members were reluctant and refused to accept the audit findings of the state auditor. When she said, you must claw back a certain amount of money, it is true. Their answer was, let's audit the auditor. And we've had to spend about 10, 11 more months going through every single transaction to audit the auditor. And then only at that
She's
point.
conflating issues here.
Well, wait, let me back up.
She's trying to confuse
It
you.
gets better. When I called for probation for Epic, his board refused. They refused to hold them accountable. And it was, again, a second call after we saw change in leadership. But there still had friends and allies on that board, and they would not do it until those people were gone. Here's the bottom line. We have a governor who knows the State Department of Education needs subpoena power.
No.
They have refused it. We have seen the
That's not their job.
Scandal turn into putting profit over kids. We
Thank you.
have called for change, and this governor has stood in the way and protected donors.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Sounds
We're gonna
good.
move on
Sounds
quickly
good.
To,
I mean,
school choice questions.
that's a Freudian slip by the moderator. She just confused the whole process, and he just agreed with her answer. Sounds good. These moderators are complete crap.
Those of you, probably everybody knows there was a push in the legislature last year for education empowerment acts. People call them vouchers to help people go to private schools. Governor Stitt, what do you tell rural educators and parents who see school choice rhetoric like that and vouchers as a threat to their district's local funding? 60 seconds.
Well, thank you. First off, to everybody out there watching on TV, the ads that her campaign and her special interest groups have been running against me to try to deceive and lie to you and create chaos and say that I'm going to defund your rural schools, it's absolutely untrue. I have put more money in education than any other governor in history. That's a fact. More money in education. We just passed the Redbud bill, which would actually put more money into our rural schools. We passed a bill to pay teachers up to $100,000 a year. And folks, I know that education is the most important thing.
Okay, we're going to talk about this for a
To
minute.
make sure our kids have the right education. But at the same time, we're going to think outside the box. And I'm going to stand with parents over big unions. My opponent shut down schools for over a year.
That's true. Absolutely.
Folks, we will
That's
work
true.
crazy to make sure
She's going to lie about this. She's going to straight up lie about it.
teaching your young people, and we will fund our rural schools. And for them to send out mailers and lie to you, it's just disgusting.
Okay, so first of all, thank you, Chase. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Let me show this comment that you made that I think was really good. Thank you, Chase, for that. Super chats are open. But she never speaks on policies she wants to implement. Just says she will fight for Oklahoma, but doesn't say how. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I thank you again, Chase, for that super chat. I really appreciate it. Super chats are open. But we need to talk about the school. School choice is not as popular in Oklahoma as it is nationally. Now, his answer here is really good. And for those of you who know, I'm not necessarily a school choice supporter. But the way that they're using this issue against him, I'm going to make a prediction to you. Okay? Thank you again for the super chat, Chase. I'm just going to keep that up. Really appreciate it. I'm going to make a nuanced point here. The school choice issue is something that the governor is honest about. But he's funded public education to the tune of $3 billion. We are not an underfunded state. She has mismanaged the funds. And if anything, she's making a case for school choice in her mismanagement. So even though I may not agree with school choice on a number of levels, he wins this argument because of her mismanagement. She's making the case for school choice. Now here's the thing. Regardless of what happens, I'm making a prediction to you right now. And I want you to hold me to this. And we'll see. If she wins the governorship, I believe she's going to flip on school choice. I know that seems outlandish. It may be outlandish. But if she wins the governorship, I think she's going to flip on school choice. I think she's going to go straight that direction of some kind of compromise as a moderate. You can't believe anything she says. The governor is at least telling you what he wants to do, and he's being honest about it, even if you may not agree. And again, there's things with him I do not agree. School choice may be one of those things, at least in certain aspects of it. But at least he's being honest about it. She's straight up lying to you. She is straight up lying to you. So I just need to make that point about school choice. So now they're using rural schools against him because we'll get into it as they talk about it. But thank you again, Chase, for that super chat. Really appreciate it. Super chats are open, guys. Thank you. Hold on, let me make sure. All right, here we go.
Well, what's disgusting is a governor who presents his own argument as fact, and it's not. Here's the truth. This governor says just now that he's going to preserve rural Oklahoma. But we all know that his voucher scheme is a rural school killer. You kill the school, you kill the community. And frankly, it'll be epic on steroids. And we won't get that money back. And we also know that you kill the community in rural Oklahoma, and I've passed through those communities where their schools gone. So is the community. So is the town. And soon the regional hospitals. This matters if we are going to see Oklahoma thrive.
She always connects healthcare with education. She wants to see a unification of the medical behavioral health apparatus with education. That is extremely dangerous. Every single time she mentions these issues, she connects healthcare and education. That is a giant red flag. She cannot win this election. She cannot win this election.
We have to have a vibrant, growing, rural communities, and we will not have that under your watch. You have promised that you will bring vouchers in if you are reelected, and you will see the dismantling of public schools. We will never be able to meet the workforce needs of business and industry. It is a no-go with me, and that is clear. I stand with rural Oklahoma.
Thank you very much. Storm.
Such a lie. I'm telling you, she's going to attack to the other direction. I promise you. She's going to attack to the other direction.
That have stemmed from the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in McGirt v. Oklahoma. This question will first go to Superintendent
Thank you, Chase. Really
Hoffmeister.
appreciate it.
That decision affirmed the Indian country reservations of the Muskogee, Creek, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Seminole, and Quapaw nations. Superintendent Hoffmeister, you have been endorsed by the leaders of the 5 tribes, so we're curious to know your interpretation of the McGirt decision's impact.
This is really
Do you believe
important.
The McGirt decision only applies to criminal jurisdiction, or does it go to places like civil law, environmental regulations, and notably taxation? 60 seconds.
We are in a mess of the governor's making with McGirt. Obviously, the ruling came, and we saw a governor who did not work immediately to secure those communities all across those 6 affected tribes and work together to establish a compact that would address
And here comes my issues with the internet, by the way.
Where we can ensure that we are keeping everyone safe in these criminal matters. Instead, what this governor has done is what he does with a lot of things. He is sowing chaos and division, and that division is pitting neighbor against neighbor. This does not help us. Let's stop and think for a moment. Our sovereign tribal nations represent a $15.5 billion economic impact a year to this state. Collectively, they are the largest employer in this state, but this governor burned bridges before McGirt, and then he had nothing to walk back over when it was time to keep Oklahomans safe.
Superintendent, do you believe McGirt applies to civil matters, environmental regulations, and taxation?
That is a matter that is going to require work together, and we know it's being litigated right now.
Yes or
not
no?
all the
What do you-
tribes. No, that's not a yes or no answer, because those are different tribes that all have a different view on this. You collectively lump people together. That is not the kind of leader that understands that we have 39 unique sovereign tribal nations in this state, and they
Right, she doesn't want to lump them together when it's inconvenient for her, but she lumps them together when she says, "Look, the 5 tribes endorsed me." She uses diversity as a shield and says, "Look how," this is a huge issue in Oklahoma, because what they're creating is an equitable 2-tiered system. What McGirt did, and the governor's right on this, but he waffles so much on the diversity issue because diversity sounds really great. And if you've listened to my channel, DEI is the progenitor. It is the membrane that unifies the ESG apparatus, the environmental, social, and governance. This is critical race theory, weaponized against this state, in policy, in law. And it's a complicated issue, but she's like, oh, we have to view these groups as disparate groups because the more groups there are, right? She doesn't put them down to individuals and what the individuals in the tribes might think. She lumps them into 39 disparate groups within a larger minority group to confuse the issue and use it to her political advantage. She uses them as human shields. Because there is a certified, verifiable political agenda behind this weaponization of identity in the United States. And McGirt and the tribes and the issue with that is the primary, it's why the people from the tribes have come after me. Because they know that I've got their bead on this. So, and Joy Hoffmeister is going to push this is a woke agenda with the tribes. And it creates a two-tiered system where some people are, exactly, divide and conquer. If some people are treated differently according to law than others within the same state, that's literally Jim Crow 1.0. In the law. That's systemic racism at its base, just flipped. If you want to talk about what systemic racism is. Because systemic racism is discrimination based on race in the law. But if it's okay as long as you're raising people of color and each, 39 different sets of standards for each group that she gets to hold up as a human shield to protect her politically. The issues with the tribes here is a CRT DEI woke agenda being weaponized against this state. Either we're all citizens of Oklahoma or we're not. Either we're all subject to the same laws or we're not. It's using history to adversely affect the present. It's making people today pay for the sins of their forefathers, which is a concept that was rejected to the benefit of society for the last 200 years in the United States and to the benefit of Western society over the last 800, 1,000 years when you're talking about English common law. And everything you have today is in part because of that, because we do not hold the children responsible for the sins of their parents. And that's what this is all based around. That we need a two-tiered legal system to offer equity to people based upon the sins of the people who had nothing to do with it. The people today had nothing to do with it. This is critical race theory in practice, McGirt. And it's using the tribes against its own citizens to the detriment of both. I'm going to tell you right now. It's going to hurt the tribes as much as it hurts the normal Oklahoma citizen. This is a huge issue. One of the most important. And the governor has been pretty strong on it, but they're beating him up with it, and they're using the diversity tack that he flipped to the left just the day before the debate, talking about how diverse this was. When you accept the premise, you accept the leftist premise, you're fighting on the battleground of their choosing, and you lose. Sun Tzu, do not fight on the battleground of your enemy's choosing. And this is what he's done with this. And I warned him about DEI over and over and over and over again. But he's wrapped it up in his economic agenda to the extent that he can't get away from it, and they're beating him in the head with it. They're beating him in the head with it. It is absolutely divide and conquer. That's the woke agenda, disrupt and dismantle. I don't know.
That understands that we have 30 people together, tribes, that all have a different view on this. You collectively lump people together. That is not the kind of leader that understands that we have unique sovereign tribal nations.
She's lumping them in different.
Speak with one voice. In fact, the historic moment was when they stood up and said, "You must go."
Governor, 90 seconds. Do you believe that McGirt applies to civil law applications, and why have your administration spent so much state money fighting these battles in court?
This is great for everybody out there watching on TV, because this is a clear difference between me and my opponent. The McGirt decision was a federalization of all of Eastern Oklahoma. Basically, the Biden administration now in charge of Eastern Oklahoma. That's what that was. And we're for fairness. We're for equal protection under the law. I don't believe because of race or heritage you should have different punishments.
That's right.
We should all be Oklahomans, in other words. And right now, the answer is very clear. Absolutely not. It shouldn't go into civil or taxation. As a matter of fact, the Tax Commission just released a statement that said, of course, everybody has to pay taxes in Oklahoma. Can you imagine a CEO of a bank in Eastern Oklahoma not paying taxes, but a single mom of a different race does? It's not a hard question. We're either all Oklahomans under the same set of laws, or we have a bunch of jurisdictions. She can't even answer that simple question. Is she for Oklahoma, or is she for a scatterboard of jurisdictions in Eastern Oklahoma?
That's a great answer.
We're going to stick with tribal relations.
Yeah, I want to ask Governor Stitt just one thing. Just to be clear, it would have to be a bank that is owned by a tribal nation, right?
What?
No, the CEO of any bank or any tribal member. There were 9,000 cases before the state's tax commission that were just, maybe they worked at Quick Trip, or they worked at Williams, or they worked for this company, that were saying they don't have to pay state taxes. It's like I'm in a twilight zone. How would you like Joe Neighbor here and Joe Neighbor here? One is, we all go to the same high schools, we drive on the same roads,
right?
And one doesn't play by the same set of rules as you have to. It's preposterous.
Right.
It would be their income that's derived from a tribally controlled source.
No,
I believe
it's
that's
just
what the state code says.
Even if it was derived from a tribally controlled source, it doesn't matter. They are in the state. They need to be subject to the same laws and the same taxation. And if you change that based upon their race, that's Jim Crow 1.0. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Jim Crow 1.0. That's discrimination against people based on race, through public policy, through the law. That's what McGirt is trying to set up, and that's what Joy Hoffmeister wants. That's what she wants to talk about. Each 39 individual tribe is a different issue. She wants to bifurcate the groups, but she still wants to talk about groups and not individuals. That's critical race theory. That's DEI ideology. That's using people as a human shield. Minorities as a human shield for a political agenda designed to divide and conquer.
Is anything in Eastern Oklahoma, because that was what was federalized after McGirt under what's called a reservation.
Well, we'll fact check that. Thank you to the Frontier for that.
I'm going to make sure you get that full answer. I think it's important.
We all go to the same high school. How would you like Joe Neighbor here and Joe Neighbor here? One is, we all go to the same high schools, we drive on the same roads, and one doesn't play by the same set of rules as you have to. It's preposterous.
But it would be their income that's derived from a tribally controlled source.
No,
I believe
it's
that's
just
what the state code says.
What they were asking for is anything in Eastern Oklahoma, because that was what was federalized after McGirt.
And again, he's arguing with the moderators here.
Well, we'll fact check that. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll fact check you.
I pulled the link up on my phone. I read it the other day.
Okay, see, again, he's arguing with the damn moderators.
To speak with the
Actually,
15 hard seconds.
we have to be able to have a governor who understands and respects the tribal sovereignty of the 39 sovereign nations in this state. We do not have that, and you heard it with this answer. And the second thing is, we have to do the hard work.
Oh, here we go. Do the work. That is a woke frame, by the way. It's a woke framing of the. We have to do the work to make sure that we bifurcate everybody into as many identity groups as possible and treat them all differently based upon their race. That's literally what she's talking about here. This is the diversity grift. This is the diversity lie. Using minorities as human shields. They literally use them as shields to say, hey, if you are against my politics, you're against these people based upon their race. They exploit them. That's what's happening here. It's a two-tiered justice system. Jim Crow 1.0.
But it takes work. With Governor Stitt, there's always a loser.
Governor Stitt, 15 hard seconds. Do you believe in tribal sovereignty for the 39 tribes?
Well, here's the deal. I'm actually a member of the Cherokee Nation. I'm proud of our heritage. We've got an open door policy, have lots of great friends that are tribal members. So again, yes, we all want to work together, but does that mean that I don't believe in Oklahoma's rule of law and the district attorneys in Tulsa being able to prosecute all crimes the same? That actually protects tribal members. Talk to the police and the law enforcement, the lawlessness going on. We have to have one set of rules. It's common sense. I don't understand why people don't get that.
Well, let me ask you just again, yes or no. I gave her a yes or no to you. Do you believe in and respect and acknowledge the tribal sovereignty of those tribes?
The federal government calls it domestic dependent sovereigns. And so absolutely, yes, they have sovereignty over what they have sovereignty over. It's a confusing question for all of us. But the Castro case that we won basically said that, yes, you have land, but it's still inside the borders of the state of Oklahoma. That's a big question. Are we Oklahomans, or we have 6 different jurisdictions? I think this is a very important question for people.
He hits this really well.
My opponent and I.
Well, that's why we're asking about it, and I've got a question for you, sir. I had the opportunity to speak with the leaders of those 5 tribes just the other day, and I asked them.
Now, this is, again,
if you were me, of Governor.
Again, they know that the tribes are adversarial to Stitt. Right? They know that. And now they're asking a question on behalf of those adversaries. Now, I'm looking for, do we know if a meeting happened this morning? Does anybody know? If a meeting, there was supposed to, I'll play it for you and then you'll see, but there was supposed to be, he invited them to a meeting.
Basically had the same thing to say. They said, when are you going to sit down with them and have actual meaningful conversations to find common ground and rebuild your administration's strained relationship with tribes and tribal citizens? When's that going to happen?
Tomorrow at 10 o'clock. They're all on TV watching right now. Let's do it tomorrow at 10 o'clock at my office.
Governor's mansion, or
no, at the state capitol.
Edmond, or
at the state capitol, right in their conference room. The fact that people say that we're not willing to talk is simply untrue. We've got people all the time reaching out behind the.
So their question was. So I just got. Again, I can't see your name because you're not on. It says Facebook user, but I'll just put it up. That he made the offer and the tribe said no. But their question was, when are you going to talk? They don't want to talk. They want to play the diversity card, which is designed to divide all Americans into disparate groups and create a 2-tiered, 3-tiered, 4-tiered justice system, which is the definition of what the woke call systemic racism. It's amazing. It's called a preemptive narrative. They say, oh, we're so systemically racist, while they inject systemic racism into the society. It's amazing. So they said no. They didn't take him up on the offer.
The scenes talking to one another. You've got the fact that
Edmond.
Let's do it tomorrow at 10 o'clock at my office.
Governor's mansion, or
no, at the state capitol.
Edmond, or
at the state capitol, right in their conference room. The fact that people say that
and they said no
talk is simply untrue. We've got people all the time reaching out behind the scenes, talking to one another, and for I think I represent Oklahomans as a tribal member and a 4th generation Oklahoman. I'll tell you this, most tribal members I know are pretty independent, and we don't like big bosses telling us what to do or who to vote for.
Let Storm and I know when the meeting happens. We'll be there. We don't have to record it. But
they denied the meeting. The tribes denied the meeting.
Superintendent Hoffmeister, 60 seconds, same question to you. When would you have those conversations, and what specific priorities would you have regarding those topics.
When I take over and win this election and step into office, it's triage. And one of the first things that we're going to have to work to restore is the compacts around McGirt. I will work with our new Attorney General to do that, and we will build on the trust and the respect that I've established. Let me say this to every member of a sovereign tribe in Oklahoma. I will not betray the trust we have established. We can have a win.
I will follow your line on all these diversity issues. She's committing to be woke, ladies and gentlemen.
We know that it takes a will to actually come together
to build a two-tier justice
we're not
system.
going to be able to accomplish in a 60-second.
She cannot win this election.
But this is the kind of work that requires a leader who can unite people around common ground. Every one of those sovereign nations wants education for their kids, safe and healthy communities.
Right, they just don't want to pay the taxes for it.
And we are missing out on building partnerships and growing together government to government.
Thank you. You,
Yeah,
10
and-
seconds.
Yeah, sure. And Oklahomans, you heard it right there. That is so important. She is for federalizing Eastern Oklahoma. So
That's
no
right.
longer would the state be in control if she was governor.
It would be a separate-
Anybody wants that.
10 seconds, Superintendent.
Divide and conquer.
It's breathtaking the way the governor processes this and sees it. Okay?
All right, on that note, let's go to the end of round 2. Thank you so much. We're heading into round 3. Somebody get
again,
a drink
it's-
ready back there. Okay, our final round is titled Burnt Ends, and we're going to ask each candidate questions regarding their records and backgrounds. 90-second answers for the round, with the person asked the question concluding with a third and final statement of 45 seconds. Storm, you have the first question for Governor Stitt.
Alrighty, Governor Stitt, in your 2019 State of the State address, you said lawmakers granting the governor hiring and firing authority over state agencies would ensure government is held accountable. You said, quote, "You know exactly where the buck stops, at my desk," end quote. Earlier this year, Embattled Tourism Director Jerry Winchester resigned after a legislative committee found the tourism department overpaid Swadley's Foggy Bottom Kitchen by $17 million. The state is now suing the restaurant
Again,
for
every
allegedly
point.
overcharging for construction costs of state park restaurants, something Swadley's denies. The question, Governor, under your own logic from 2019, does the buck stop at your desk for the Swadley's barbecue scandal? And is there anything you would have done differently in retrospect?
Again, the facts you just said are not true, and that's misleading to Oklahomans. We have 6 restaurants across the state. I think Jerry Winchester is a fantastic.
Which facts were incorrect?
See, again,
That we've lost $17 million. That's simply not
Yep.
true. It's like if you build a home and you hire a contractor to build that home, and then you say the contractor overcharged you for this sheetrock or this piece of equipment. That's what we're talking about here. If the vendor overcharged us, then there's lawsuits against that vendor. But to say that the taxpayers lost $17 million is untrue. There's 6 restaurants and parks across the state right now that we're gonna get a new vendor. There's an RFP process in place. There'll be a new vendor that'll open those up, and we will operate those. The state owns all that. There's 4,600 vendors that participate with the state of Oklahoma. And if we find out any vendors doing things wrong, we're gonna hold them accountable. Folks, we will be transparent with your dollars. That's why we've built this largest savings account. That's why we're holding government accountable. So yes, we will hold these vendors accountable, but to say that we've lost $17 million is simply not true. The tourism department does their best job. There's about 500 employees there that are working hard for Oklahomans to make our parks
Again,
top 10. And for political purposes,
They-
these folks take shots at these.
They do. What he's saying here is correct, is that this is probably nothing of a scandal. There were bigger issues than this, but every single question asked in this debate is pointed at making Governor Stitt look as bad as possible. Yes, why are the media personalities moderators? It's a great question. Because these are the worst moderators. They're biased. They ask questions that do not hold each candidate accountable in an equal measure, and they only push back on him. They only push back on him. And they're standing up there with the two gubernatorial candidates as if it just sets it is a horrible setup with two horrible moderators. Horrible.
At these good, hardworking Oklahomans that stepped away from private careers to go serve their state. And I just think it's unfair, and it's all politics. You notice it all pops up on an election year. And it's from my opponent who likes to kind of deceive people out there in the public. And I just wanted them to hear directly from me on that.
Well, Storm, do you want to take this or should I? Because I don't think he said, the script says overpaid. It didn't say anybody lost it. I understand.
See, again, they are debating the governor here. Two of them. And Joy Hoffmeister just sitting there going, why didn't she bring it up? This is so ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. Do you see it? They start arguing with the governor.
To kind of deceive people out there in the public. And I just wanted them to hear.
She could have responded to this. Throw to her.
Do you want to take this or should I? Because
Oh, no. Which one wants
to? The script says overpaid. It didn't say anybody lost it. I understand that there's an ability to claw back that money, but you're saying that Jerry Winchester did fantastic work and that this went well? I mean, what do you think about what Brent Swadley is accused of doing?
Oh, man.
Again, if the vendors are doing anything wrong and overcharging the state, Oklahomans want somebody to put a fresh set of eyes on every single contract. That's what we're doing. And when we found out that there's any overcharging, and it's a current lawsuit going on, we're going to hold those vendors accountable. But for you to throw out the numbers about 17 million, that's simply not true. That's not the.
And Joy Hoffmeister confirms it here, by the way.
If there was a number.
Superintendent Hoffmeister, 90-second rebuttal.
The governor repeated Harry Truman when he said the buck stops with me at his State of the State. But what we have clearly seen is the governor plays pass the buck. This is a governor who has squandered, mismanaged, and lost millions of taxpayer dollars on his watch with his appointees. Let's just talk about those facts. State auditor in 2021 shows $41 million in questioned costs among governors' agencies that he has control over. $20 million in missing PPE inventory, paid for, never received. $12 million lost in Swadley's scandal.
So they said 17, she says 12. But she got her nice little line here. She got her nice little line.
Again, there's a $25 billion budget. We have 30,000 hardworking employees in the state of Oklahoma, 4,600 vendors. I think Oklahomans are smart enough to know that if there's a vendor overcharging us, there's lawsuits, and we're going to claw back that money, and we're going to protect the taxpayers. Nobody fights for the taxpayers more than I do. I want lower taxes. We have the largest savings account. She's never met a tax she didn't like. She wants to tax and spend and try to confuse Oklahomans for the momentum that we're getting.
Okay,
thank you very much.
I have to correct that. That is a falsehood.
Okay, hold on. Let's go back to that real quick. That's a good answer. Listen to this.
Governor Stitt, 45 seconds to close it to you.
Again, there's a $25 billion budget. We have 30,000 hardworking employees in the state of Oklahoma, 4,600 vendors. I think Oklahomans are smart enough to know that if there's a vendor overcharging us, there's lawsuits, and we're going to claw back that money, and we're going to protect the taxpayers. Nobody fights for the taxpayers more than I do. I want lower taxes. We have the largest savings account. She's never met a tax she didn't like. She wants to tax and spend and try to confuse Oklahomans for the momentum that we're getting.
Okay,
thank you very much.
I have to correct that. That is a falsehood. I have never proposed any kind of misuse of taxpayer dollars. We have been transparent. And I believe that we have to hold our elected leaders accountable for those tax dollars they were entrusted with that they misused. We have the GEAR funds, which was given to all governors. And this governor has 31 million of the 39 million with questionable expenditures, lax control systems, $30 million for a do-nothing pandemic center. And
Right, what she was pushing for.
have seen this it's
amazing. She has no scruples, ladies and gentlemen. She has none at all.
Governor Stitt, she mentioned gear funds. Let's go there. 15 seconds, 30 seconds. What do you need?
Yeah, again.
Tell us what happened, because people said that was not overseen well.
Yeah, again, during the pandemic, the Trump administration, Betsy DeVos, gave $30
Yes, Kamala
million
speak for
to
sure.
the governors.
Right, that's right,
gave
Tom.
$680 million to the public school system. So the real question Oklahomans want to know is, with that $680 million, why could you not keep two of the largest school districts open?
Yeah.
I was
Yes.
for parents
Boom.
in Tulsa, Oklahoma, their schools were closed for 355 days.
Ridiculous.
Every single day, I
And
would
she
have
was
parents calling
up
me
for
saying,
it. She was the
"Governor,
one that did it. She
my
lies
first
here.
grader is not learning how to read.
She
Can
lies here.
you help us?"
And I'll prove it to
that's why
you.
I was focused so hard. People are waking up to the learning loss now. I think the people deserve to know why you closed the schools for that long.
Very
Amen.
much. We're going to get kicked out of here if we don't keep going.
Oh, yeah, let's change the subject.
90 seconds.
Let's change the subject.
Frontier reported
Whatever.
Super PACs and dark money groups have spent more than 12.
They completely avoid the COVID issue and her closing schools. They completely avoid it. Oh, we got to move on. We're going to get run out of here. Absolute BS by these moderators. Absolute BS. There should be petitions to remove them from any type of event like this. And what we need to start doing with debates is have somebody who claims to be on the left and somebody who claims to be on the right asking questions. And get these damn moderators off the stage. Nobody cares about your face. Amazing.
$1 million attacking Governor Stitt and supporting you this election cycle, which is more than 12. That's your next question for you, 90 seconds. Last week, the Frontier reported the super PACs and dark money groups have spent more than $12.5 million attacking Governor Stitt and supporting you this election cycle, which is more money than both of your campaigns have spent combined. You and others were arrested and charged related to dark money coordination in your 2014 campaign. Those charges were ultimately dropped. But with dark money again flooding the airwaves and billboards and mailers to support you from sources that do not have to reveal their donors, how can Oklahomans trust that you'll work for them and not unnamed folks who are running dark money campaigns?
Because I stand up to those who are mishandling the taxpayer dollars. I stand up for our schools. I did that in my first race in 2014, and an underhanded politician brought false charges. Those were dropped and expunged by the DA, and I am proud to have stood up for my family, for our schools, for all of the families of Oklahoma. And this is a governor who wants to distract from his own record. It is his record that has led to many who want to see him out of office. I don't have a thing to do with anything but my campaign. And in our campaign, we are running on faith, family, education, hard work, Oklahoma values, and that's what we're talking about. That's what I will continue to focus on. And I will always stand up for the truth, no matter the cost.
How will she?
Just real
How
quick,
will
who's
she?
the underhanded politician you referenced?
My opponent, which I beat in
in
a
2018,
three-way and won.
They are helping her out.
Those charges, oh, you mean the 2014 opponent?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Governor Stitt, 90 seconds.
They are helping her out. Listen to this. It's
Well,
amazing.
I think it's a
Oh my
question
God.
we all want to know, and I know people at home want to know, who's behind all these dark money ads? $20 million has been spent against me, attacking me, spreading lies and chaos and misinformation, supporting my opponent. I'll give you 20 million reasons why she will be beholding to special interest and not you, the people. Folks, I will always stand for 4 million Oklahomans. You elected me to put a fresh set of eyes on every agreement, every contract, hold government accountable. That's exactly what we're doing. The momentum is happening. Oklahoma, we're number 11 in people moving to our state. Our economy has never been more diverse and brighter with our aviation and defense and agriculture and all the great things that we're going. But it is a very, very interesting question. I would like my opponent to tell us who it is. We both know she knows who it is. We would like her to tell us
you
who
are
it is.
wrong. And here's
And the people
here's the
deserve it.
answer.
The people want to know, Joy.
If there is a way to get money out of politics, sign me up. Because it has corrupted this state.
Sign her up. Yeah. Sign her up. What?
They are saying that they see
Oh,
your
my
self-dealing.
gosh.
They see your cronyism, and I've had a front row seat to the corruption that I've witnessed under your watch. Oklahomans are sick of it. They want our state to move forward in a way
Pot, kettle,
where we put people first.
maybe just a little
We don't
bit.
read off a national script like this, Governor. Instead, we put people first, and that we are careful with their precious taxpayer dollars. There are people
Okay, just
who are
one second.
paying.
I just need to highlight this point. They were asking her a question. They were asking her a question and helped her all the way through that difficult question about her being arrested and what that was all about, and made sure she clarified it. But that was your other opponent, right? That was your other. I mean, they're just being helped along by the moderators. It's amazing. They held her hand the entire time and did her dirty work for her. And then she jumps out and throws out a talking point. People clap, and she steps back. She steps to his right on issues that she knows she could get votes on and appeal to the middle, and then steps back, and they cover for her over and over and over and over again. Get these clowns off the stage.
Taxes today that can barely make it. I have met with the seniors who are splitting pills, and they have to drive 80 miles to their doctor, and they can't afford it. And you've done nothing to help them other than empty promises and misspending their taxpayer dollars. I'm standing against it, and Oklahomans are going to hold you accountable on November the 8th.
Thank you very much. We got two more questions and then our closing statements. We're going to go to 60-second and then 30-second responses on this. Governor Stitt, as governor, you've appointed two men to serve as the executive secretary of the commissioners of the land office, an obscure but incredibly important state agency
Every
that manages
single
state land
question.
assets and distributes more than $100 million a year to local school districts. Both men have resigned. First, Brant Vaughter left amid questions about his oil and gas company's legal battles with the CLO, as well as the revelation that he lacked the advanced degree required legally for the position to which you appointed him. Your next appointee, Elliot Chambers, resigned after it was revealed he had a prior relationship at a company he contracted with to manage state assets. Governor Stitt, why should Oklahomans re-elect you to appoint a third CLO secretary? And what
They're
do you
just
think
reading
question
talking
your
points
decision to move to
and then
some
asking a
direct
question, why
investments
did
with
you...
that, money?
Well, first off, for people out there, the CLO manages the land that was given by the federal government at statehood. So that's what the CLO is. It's about a $5 billion fund, and then we've got mineral interest that we manage for the benefit of education. So that's what the fund is, and we need people that understand investments, that know how to invest $5 billion.
Yeah, this is
people
where
that
the
have oil and gas
ESG of it all
backgrounds
comes in, and he
to
gets in trouble.
maximize the profits for Oklahomans. And so that's what we do. We're going to try to find the best people. I don't play politics with people that we try to put in these positions. We try to find the very, very best Oklahomans, and then we recruit them to leave their oil and gas jobs or their investing jobs to come serve the state. And I'm so proud of some of the Oklahomans that have came in and served. We've got great ones. And those that are watching on television, get involved. We need more good people involved in politics. We cannot leave politics to just the career politicians and people that just automatically flock around this building. We need you to come get involved. Oklahoma has a bright future. We have a lot of momentum going right now, and we'll continue with that effort to bring people from the outside.
Thank you, Superintendent Hoffmeister. 60 seconds to you as well. You also serve on the Commissioners of the Land Office. You've been in the executive session.
She serves on the land office that they're talking about.
So
It's
I will tell you, as a commissioner of the land office, I am very troubled by what has happened under the governor's watch. In fact, whistleblowers came forward, multiple whistleblowers, and they came to me, and I sent them to the state auditor. And we were both very troubled.
Amazing.
I called for an agenda item so that we could bring the information forward. The CLO director, his secretary that he speaks of, fired that person and settled with that person then in 30 days. We have a governor who refused to actually hold accountable in a transparent way the secretary. I called for him to resign. He did. He resigned. But then I turned over what I was ready to share in executive session, and the governor's attorney for the Commission of Land would not put it on the agenda in a legal way. And so those documents went to the DA, who saw need to turn it over to the OSBI. So that matter, we will hold Oklahoma taxpayers in a place where we are doing right by them, and we will hold anyone who has acted improperly accountable.
Thank you very much, Governor. 30 seconds response.
You know, again, the people that are at the table, this was inside baseball that you're hearing here. People are concerned about education, healthcare. Let's actually talk about that. Inflation. Why are things costing more?
He's making a good point here. It's like
administration, it's your record in education, and the people deserve to know, why are we, after 8 years, somebody in poor performance? In Oklahoma,
that's a good point.
If you're doing poor performance, we don't give you a promotion.
What he just highlighted there was that they're asking questions that are designed to make him look bad and not asking questions about what's actually affecting Oklahomans on the whole. So he made a good point there, and then he flipped it. So that was a good moment for him.
Storm, you've got the final question of the night.
And they don't even follow up on that.
Before closing, Superintendent Hoffmeister, thanks to the historic 2018 state tax increase and rounds of federal COVID relief funding, there are significantly more public dollars devoted to Oklahoma's education system now than ever before. A year ago, Governor Stitt requested State Auditor and Inspector Cindy Byrd conduct a full audit of the State Department of Education to identify all revenue sources and determine if the agency and local school districts are complying with all financial reporting requirements. As was mentioned earlier this evening, you called the governor's request an attack on Oklahoma's education system, but during your time leading the agency, we've seen several instances where public funding has been misused, from EPIC to Seaworth Academy, child nutrition program funding, and federal E-rate fraud, just to name a few. The question, why would you not welcome Auditor Byrd's pending report on how education dollars are being spent in Oklahoma?
Well, that is because the governor doesn't understand at all what he asked for. These are all serious issues which we've held Oklahoma schools, charter schools, and those at EPIC accountable. And I've clawed back the money. But here's the deal. The governor wants you to believe that the State Department of Education has never been audited. Since I've been in office, we've had probably 25 at least audits. We pay $400,000 a year to the state auditor for those audits, and his audit is now going to be over $100,000 to do something that is an exercise in actually going into the schools.
It's a good point, Tom.
At a time where they are dealing with COVID recovery. He talks about closing schools. I'm the one who stood up for local control.
Oh.
I'm the one who wrote a 100-page document called Return to Learn so that our kids would get back in school. He's the one who actually closed this state. He closed our businesses, he closed our restaurants, and he allowed our our hospitals to surge under a COVID that was raging and has impacted our children's learning.
Thank you. 90 seconds, Governor.
Good question, Julia.
Well, I mean, again, Oklahomans are out there. They do want to know, why was she calling the audit an attack? There's a difference between financial audits and performance audits. And the facts are, a governor had never called for an audit of public education until I did it. That's the largest tax of your taxpayer dollars. We spent $3.2 billion in our public education system. It's the record we've spent. No governor's ever spent more, and that doesn't include the ad valorem dollars. So yes, we want to be transparent. This is the first time it's ever done. But yes, there are financial. There's financial audits, but there is a difference there. But you know, if we get back to the issues, what people are wanting to talk about, which she hasn't told you one thing, Oklahomans. Why are we 49th in test scores?
Yes.
Why does Florida who spends less per pupil than Oklahoma.
And she's been in that office for 8 years.
For 17. What are they doing differently?
Because she was a Republican governing like a Democrat.
We're going to challenge ourselves, and we're going to look at other states. There's no reason Oklahoma's not a top 10 state. We should be top 10 at everything that we do. We live in the greatest state in the country. I've grown a business here. We can do it. We can do better for our kids. That's what I'm fighting for. That's why I ran last time. That's why I left my company to come serve my state and focus on the next generation. And that's what I promised Oklahomans that I would do this time. Our momentum is halfway there. Folks, we want to keep it going. We do not want to go backwards to a Biden party in control of Oklahoma.
Superintendent, 45 seconds to button up.
That was good.
Here.
I'm sorry, say.
Yes, 45 seconds before we move on to closings.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure where you get all of your information, but I will tell you we are 46th lowest in the nation in what we invest in the children of Oklahoma compared to other states. We are no longer at the top of the region in being competitive, paying market. I am also a businesswoman. I know what that means. That means that you have to invest in people. If we're going to meet the needs of children and see higher outcomes, we have to have teachers in school buildings, but not just a classroom teacher. We need to have more people on the team to support our kids' learning.
No,
School counselors.
She's advocating right now for the problem, which is so much money has gone into education, but it's gone towards administrators who push a political and social agenda in schools. And very little of the money has gone towards teachers and teacher pay. And that's because of her. Because she's advocating to create this administrative bloat with DEI officers and school counselors that are all pushing a social agenda onto kids, into the minds of these kids, that pushes them towards medical transitions, that pushes them towards racial division, that pushes them towards all of these things. Social emotional learning. That's what she's doing here. And so she's saying that we need to fix the problem by creating more of the problem. There's been tons of money given to the education system, $3 billion more than ever before, and she's funneled it towards the middle, to creating a bureaucratic administrative nightmare in our schools. Eliminate the administration on like 80% of it is worthless. 80% of administrations in schools like this are worthless.
We need paraprofessionals, special education teachers. We need all of the people on the team that are going to be able to help our children meet and overcome their needs and barriers. And it is pitiful that we have a governor who doesn't get that connection, that we have to meet their needs, whether those needs are about the people or about the resources with just even getting to the school. We know that this governor is standing in the way, and he is not the kind of governor that is going to put people first. With him, it's always politics first.
Thank you very much. Let's go right on to 90-second closing statements. Governor Stitt, you have the first 90-second closing statement.
Well, thank you so much for joining in tonight. We really, really appreciate it. And I like to remind people how far we have come in the last 4 years.
It's
when I took over from budget deficits to now record savings and surplus to
an example
school
of
weeks,
profound bias.
Walkouts, to now record investments in schools and teachers. A very bright economy. We're attracting companies and people from all over the country and really all over the world. You know, friends, my opponent, she joined Joe Biden's party when she couldn't see a path forward for herself as a Republican. But
that's right.
It's no surprise. She closed schools for weeks in 2018.
Yes, she did.
Then she joined liberal unions to close our schools in 2020 for almost a year. Folks, Oklahoma's turnaround that you elected me to do, it is working. We've got a lot of momentum. We don't want to go backwards. But there are special interest groups that have lost control of the Capitol. They don't like it. They have spent $20 million on lies and confusion and chaos, attacking me and promoting her. And I'll give you 20 million reasons why she will never be beholden to the people of Oklahoma. She'll be beholden to special interest groups. And folks, I want to keep the momentum going. We've balanced our budget. We gave teachers a pay raise, law enforcement a pay raise, all while cutting taxes for Oklahomans. Thank you so much for being here, and let's go win this thing on November 8th.
Thank you
Now,
very much.
this had cut off yesterday. I want to see her closing statement, so I usually don't pay that much attention to closing statements, but this...
All right, Oklahomans, I'm going to talk direct to you. Oklahoma is at a tipping point. We have a governor who has run our state into the ground through his self-dealing, through his cronyism and corruption.
Stage management here, huh?
Seat. Education is on the ballot. Our rural communities are on the ballot. Freedom is on the ballot. To make decisions for yourself and your trusted doctor. This governor wants to privatize education. It is going to kill our rural communities. This governor wants to privatize health care, sooner care, where 53% of enrollees are children. He wouldn't stand for a corporation getting in between his decisions, right? None of us want to have someone else in the way of making those life.
Which is what she wants to do with education. She wants to put the teacher administrative apparatus between you and your children.
We need the infrastructure for great jobs, and it is going to take a modern infrastructure plan so that this state can have world-class schools, safe and healthy communities, and the infrastructure for great jobs, and that includes relationships, partnerships with our sovereign tribal nations, with that $15.5 billion economic impact. Let's see our communities grow and thrive as partners with nonprofits. All of this is about common sense, respect for one another, working together. And I say, I'm aggressively moderate.
Thank you, Tom.
Meet me in the middle. Let's get something done.
So let's wrap this up.
Your vote on November the 8th. Oklahoma belongs to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes tonight's...
Okay, so what do we need to take away from this debate? What are the points? Thank you, Tom, for your super chat. I really appreciate that. Helps me keep doing what I'm doing, and it takes a while, and it takes a lot to sit and parse all of this stuff. So thank you for that. And anybody else wants to jump into a super chat, I would really appreciate that. But here is what you need to take away from this debate. Okay? First of all, the moderators are corrupt. They're run by a media who's corrupt. They place themselves at the level of the candidates, ask questions that are designed to benefit their chosen candidate, and put them through a script that protects Joy Hoffmeister and tries its best to expose or really conflate and manipulate the perception of the conservative candidate, which is the governor in this race. That was abundantly clear. I've watched this debate through 3 times now. The manner in which the media distorts the way that they present information is criminal. The manner in which the media presents questions and the script of this entire debate is media malpractice at its height. Republicans have got to stop agreeing to this kind of debate. Put these guys on a show like Joe Rogan and have them sit for 4 hours and talk. Let them question each other. Instead of moderators standing up there like they're the candidates behind the same damn lecterns, arguing with one candidate and not the other, covering for the other candidate openly. And then we have the stream that goes down during the hardest hit questions for the candidate that they're obviously pushing for. The second thing is, the governor's not going to win any votes by tacking to the left on issues. The thing I will give him is being honest about his policies. But some of his policies are right in line with the Biden administration. He needs to figure that out. Because she tacked to the right, lying, because she's going to go way more left than he will with it, I promise you. But she lied to the electorate to try to pick up moderates. She has lied about everything she's done at the Oklahoma Department of Education. She has governed that department as if she was a woke leftist Democrat, and she did it as a Republican. The moderators need, this is a good question from Tom. Why can't the candidates ask questions of the moderators? Because they control the debate. 90 seconds, 15 seconds, 60 seconds. They make sure that they get to control the pacing and the direction to the extent that the candidates are then beholden to whatever their line of thought is, whatever their premises are. And it boxes them in, and it protects one candidate over the other. And over and over, the third thing is here that you need to get from this debate. They ask questions over and over again that protect Joy Hoffmeister. Over and over again. Or they avoid questions that protect Joy Hoffmeister. And put all of the heat on one candidate. And when she does get in trouble, they helped her. And then she just spouts talking points, gets some nice applause lines that she has pre-prepared, and she lies. And when Governor Stitt stands up there and is honest about what he's doing, even if I don't agree with it, he's at least honest about it. She is a wolf in sheep's clothing. She cannot be trusted. She cannot win this race. And if you've watched me, okay, you've seen that I have been critical of Governor Stitt on many areas. I was critical of Governor Stitt in the way that he answered these questions. But that was the real third thing, I'm sorry, is that he cannot tack to the left on these issues. He's going to lose votes. There's a reason why she is at the point in the polling that she's is, because he is tacked to the left on too many issues. And that's really disappointing because he's had the opportunity. He could be a stalwart warrior like DeSantis when it comes to these, especially these environmental issues, when it comes to the social issues, when it comes to criminal justice reform, where he got beat up the most. And that's the fourth thing here, is that they pick issues that they praised him for tacking to the left, like the criminal justice issue and the commutations. They praised him for that. The left praised him for his work, and then they beat him up over the debate and allow her to go to his right and don't call her on it. The left just doesn't even care that she's espousing a more non-leftist viewpoint to get votes, and they just let it slide. That's why you cannot, Governor Stitt, accept the premise and bend to the mob on these issues. Hold firm in your convictions at what you know is right. Just because people are loud doesn't mean that they're... I mean, you ignore us Republican activists all the time. But anytime the left gets loud, you falter. But they're not the majority of the state. And then that splinters the right, and that leads to polls like you're seeing right now in this election. The reason why, if this is close, if the polls are to be believed, that is the reason. Because you're not going to pick up any votes, Governor Stitt, on the left. None. Ever. Period. And the middle, I'm telling you, the middle right is who she's going after. You will not be able to pick up the middle left if that exists. You need to dance with the one who brung you. He had some great answers here, but this was set up to make her look like the winner. And he fought back and said he made some stupid mistakes, but at least he told the damn truth. I cannot come up with a statement in this debate where Joy Hoffmeister told the truth. And if she got close to telling the truth and they thought it might hurt her, the moderators just helped her right along. This is why we need a conservative media in Oklahoma that's local. This is what I'm trying to do. Because just like last night with Jake Merritt, I'm not going to sit here and just praise Governor Stitt over and over again. But I'm going to show you where he's being set up for failure. I'm going to say where I disagree with him. But at least the man is being honest. I don't agree with his environmental. I think he's way too involved in ESG investments. I think that's going to do horrible damage to this state over the long term. He needs to figure that out because it's connected directly to the DEI social justice movement that's allowing these moderators and Joy Hoffmeister to do what they're doing to you right now. This is what's turning the state blue. If it's going that direction, is his acceptance of this, that you can separate the E from the S and the G, and you can't. And buying into that economic model is opening yourself up for all of these attacks. You need to go visit with Warren Hamilton. You need to go visit more with Shane Jett and Nathan Dahlman, real conservatives in this state. And I'm telling you, even if they're saying, "Oh, you can have your cake and eat it too when it comes to energy and do this renewables thing," you cannot. You cannot. The E cannot be divorced from the S and the G, no matter how hard you try. And she's beating you over the head with it, Governor. That's what she's doing right now. And she did that in that debate. You had some very strong moments. I think you really pointed out the fact that she was exploiting people yet again in the criminal justice issue, because that's what she does. You did very well on the tribes issue, because they are trying to create a two-tiered, equity-based system, which is Jim Crow 1.0, racial segregation. In the law. That is what they call systemic racism. That's the very definition of it. And they're trying to recreate it to make up for past sins. So they're making the people today pay for the sins of their ancestors. That's not America. That's not freedom. That's Jim Crow 1.0. And that's what the Democratic Party has been doing. That's what Joy Hoffmeister is setting up in your schools through DEI, CRT, gender theory, all of those things. She wants to deal with 39 separate groups, not individuals in the groups, not what they may think, not how they vote, but they're leaders in those groups, so that you can never get a consensus. And then she holds them up as a diversity human shield to protect her politically. It's exploitation. It's tokenism. But it serves a political purpose for the leaders of these tribes that don't necessarily work in the best interest of the people of the tribe. Talk about tribalism. It's literal tribalism. You cannot create a two-tiered system. Either you're a part of the United States or you're not. There can be some consensus given to certain aspects based on treaties, but you cannot be taxed differently. You cannot be held accountable under different laws within the same state, but get the benefits of the tax dollars of that state. It's just absolute racial segregation at that point. So, well, guys, been on for about 3 hours, so thank you for coming in. I hope you like my analysis. I'm going to be doing more of this. I'm going to be covering the state superintendent debate, and that'll be an interesting one. Go watch my video on Jenna Nelson. I think that'll be a good primer for what we're about to see. Go watch my videos, my interviews with Ryan Walters. That'll be good primers. Did 2 of those. And thank you for those who super chatted, Chase and Tom. I appreciate the support there. And thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, share the video, hit the bell. Share this with people so they can go watch it. That helps beat the algorithm that's trying to knock me down. And stay tuned. I'll be back. I really appreciate your all's support, and we'll see you soon.